Alchemize your energy. Darling, let your spirit be free. Don't give up, keep on pushing through. Now is the time, it's all up to you. Alchemize your energy, my friend. Let your spirit be free. Don't give up, keep on pushing through. Now is the time, it's all up to you. No matter the storm, but over tragedy. No matter the storm, but over tragedy. No matter the storm, we will always take flight. Keep on pushing through the darkness of night. There's no limit, let's reach for the sky. Shine so bright, from darkness to light.
Hello, welcome to Alchemizing Energy. I am your host, DJ Genesis. Today we have a special guest, and I'm really excited to hear from him. He is Brother Sharif Bey from the Moorish Science Temple of America, and he is going to be presenting a presentation on African spiritual technology. Without further ado, I'm going to be introducing up to Alchemizing Energy, Brother Sharif Anael Bey.
That's it. Perfect. I like it. Greetings. You said it perfectly.
Is that how you pronounce it?
Anael Bey. That's a fact.
Okay.
You did it perfectly.
Okay. All right. So, well, I saw you on the Black Magic 363 podcast, and you were discussing hoodoo and voodoo magic. And you had a plethora of information, a plethora of things that you were bringing to the table, and it was amazing to hear that. And so when I saw that you had so much knowledge on African spirituality, even when it relates to Islam and different cultures, I talked to you because, I was in a debate not too long ago with the Hebrew Israelites where I was discussing Eva versus Torah, which is more relevant to society. Yes. And the way that you did your presentation, it really even made it even more clear. One, the connection that we have to that aspect of the world, North Africa, Middle East, with the West African society, that we are not separate. And two, that it is relevant to society. It's not just witchcraft. It's not just folk magic, So I wanted to introduce yourself and give us some background on who you were. And when you're ready, we can start the presentation.
Let's do it. So first, again, I'm very honored to be on the show. Very honored to have, to be here, sister. I'm very honored that you were able to watch the show. And as a traditional practitioner of African spirituality by way of Epha, you are, by the way, I'm very gratified that you could see the value in what I was presenting. So before we go any further, I think it's imperative that I speak briefly to the perspective. It wasn't just so much the information that was being presented and that I'll be presenting momentarily, but it's the perspective from which the information is being presented. We say that it's not so much information that's secret, that's kept from our people. It's our narrative on the information. It's not so much as what to think about, it's how we were trained to think about whatever it is we think about. You see what I'm saying? So, I myself am not in the traditional sense, a practitioner of hoodoo. But I am familiar with what we would call spiritual technology and its relationship to the old hidden narrative on religion. Okay? So I'm intimately familiar with that, with spiritual mechanics, right? And so for me to say I'm not a traditional practitioner of hoodoo is essentially like me saying, well, I don't drive a Ford. See? I drive something.
But you know what a Ford is. You know what a Ford is, though.
But now watch this. I know it's a vehicle. How about that? See, maybe your Ford has automatic and has all these things that my vehicle doesn't have, but I know it does have some things that my vehicle has, the essentials. You get it?
Right.
So that's what we end up missing a lot of times, because we've been given another narrative on how to think about our own stuff.
Right. What they're trying to say is the Ford is a hoopty.
Or guess what? Or worse. Or worse. They're saying the Ford is a dead horse.
A dead horse. Oh, that's deep. That's deep.
You see what I'm saying?
Point. Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Or they're saying that your Ford doesn't do what my Hyundai does. Yeah, it does.
Does the exact same thing. It drives.
Exact same thing. The only difference is one is made in America, one is made in... Okay, see?
Yeah.
So if there's any difference, if there's any real difference, it's just culture.
Wonderful. Exactly. That's pretty much what I saw. And most Epha practitioners feel similarly. That's
one of the reasons is because if you're practicing it, there's no room for, I'll just call it that, spookism.
Exactly.
There's really no room for it. You see what I'm saying?
Spookism goes out the window. Yes. That was one of the things that I was trying to get away from. I was a Christian at one point. You know, I grew up in the Christian church.
Yes.
And it was a lot of spookism, honey. I'd be scared to go to sleep sometimes. The news would come on. I would think it was the apocalypse about to happen. Right. Every night, the end of the world, you know, and it's a very apocalyptic based. I know at least my church that I was in was very.
Well, that's many churches in the West. And now here's the irony of that. If you read in the book of Revelations, it talks about those that will taste the lake of fire. And the first ones that it names are the fearful. How crazy is that?
Wow. But then they pump fear into you.
Purposefully. The Revelation says the fearful and the unbelieving, they go first.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy? They go first. You see, so we're dealing with, like, let's just talk religious talk or religious jargon for a second. The devil, however you want to see the devil always fights a rear guard action. What do I mean by that? The purpose of the devil or the adversary is the same purpose as the weights in a gym.
To make you better, to work you out.
But guess what? To get better is only on the other side of the struggle with the weights, isn't it?
Yeah.
What have we been trained to do? Run from the weights.
Right. And you know what? In the Epha, we don't believe in a so-called devil. We do believe in like what they would call like the Eshu, which would be a trickster. But the only trick is that there's a lesson.
Yes.
It's to teach you a lesson. Like, you know what? You could have went this way, but since you're not going to follow what you're supposed to do, here's that lesson.
You still have a lesson. You have more lessons to learn. That's
exactly. And so you're gonna get put through it. You're gonna get put through the fire.
Now, mind you, I'm a member of the Moorish Science Symbol of America. It's an Islamic organization, right? But our perspective and our narrative on Islam is old world. It's uncolonized.
Okay.
So guess what we say in Islam? In our expression of Islam, we say the only devil man must be redeemed from is self, his lower self.
Exactly. Same thing in Epha, I believe. Yeah. And here's the thing. I did talk about Orishas and how they were all a part of the human body. People think of Orishas as things that are outside of oneself, but really they are all functions of the body. Make no mistake.
That is that perspective that most of our people have, and most people in the West have, is colonized perspective. Because and we can go right to history. See, that's the thing. We can give these narratives, these false narratives, and slave making narratives. We can give them historical context.
Right, because if you only look at the Orisha as these beings that live the earth, kind of like how you look at the Greek mythology with Venus and Isis and things like that,
right?
And you just have that surface understanding that you'll never get to. So I guess that's why
it's the wrong narrative, right?
That's why I believe these practices were hidden, because they didn't want you to know all that. They want you to think that it's just that.
But not just that, sister. Here's the other part, right? We're talking, I think it was 1473. I think it was 73. 1473 or 1474 was when the very first, so this is historical context, the very first modern nation state in the world. Today, this is the age of nation states. Prior to that, it was the age of kingdoms, empires, and dominions, imperialism, right?
Right.
Great Britain, right? The United Kingdom was formerly called the British Empire. See? All right. So we're now the very first modern nation state that went from kingdom, empire, dominion to nation state was Spain. How did it happen? Two kingdoms united, the kingdom of Aragon and the kingdom of Castile in 1473. By what? Marriage. King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella. From the first modern nation state. Then a few years later, 1477, 1478 was the start of the Spanish Inquisition. The purpose of the Spanish Inquisition was not just to get rid of what they call dangerous radicals, which were anybody who was educated by us in Europe. And make no mistake, algebra, right? Geometry. I'm just calling it what it is. And again, we have the historical proof, the evidence to the fact. These things were taught in Cordova, in Seville, and these universities in Spain. These things were taught, but guess what they were? Today we say, yes, Western history says, yes, mathematics, higher mathematics, algebra, geometry, trigonometry, all these things were taught in Spain by African people. Hold on. But guess what they were, people? Guess what they were? What we called mathematics, algebra, geometry at that time period. The same scholars will admit that present day algebra, present day algorithms all came out of the very same place. More specifically, computation came from Epha. Now watch this. These things, and we know, were advanced and improved upon and encouraged during African Islamic rule from the 8th century to the 15th century. Nearly 800 years.
So was Africa, because they talk about how the Arabs enslaved the Africans, and then we did talk about how Islam was a part of at some point. Epha and Islam worked together at some point. They were kind of like a symbiotic with each other. Is it because of enslaved Africans that the Arabs brought them into Saudi Arabia or the area and got to learn Epha? Or
great question. Here we go. Remember we said the secret is always narrative? Do you remember the movie, Spike Lee's movie Malcolm X? And when he had just started studying and he was in prison and they were in the church service and he asked the question of the teacher who was also a minister. He says, they got in a debate on whether Jesus was quote unquote white or not. Remember?
You're right.
And he says, well, of course God is white. I mean, isn't it obvious? And he points at the picture of Caesar Borgia. Right? You get it? In other words, they already knew they controlled the narrative, so all they do is refer you back to the narrative they control. Get it? So, to your point, they'll say, no, there was the Africans, there was the Arab slave trade. But the false narrative you're given is that Arabs are a race of people distinct from Africans. False narrative.
So the Arabs that enslaved the other Africans were African?
It's just like saying Tanzanians enslaved former members of the Songhai.
So this was like a tribal war.
Get this book. Dr. Tariq Berry's book, The Unknown Arabs. The subtitle of the book, Clear Definitive Proof of the Dark Complexion of the Original Arabs and the Arab Origin of the So-Called African Americans.
The Arab origin of the African Americans. So
this is another way one of the key contributions of the Moorish movement to our people's upliftment is that it propagates and preserves the hidden narrative on our people. You see? So
right.
what were we just talking about? We were talking about a period in history called the Reconquista. The Reconquista was a period of time when Pale Europeans were trying to regain control of Europe over from us. Right off top, a number of bells should be going off. Wait a minute, we ran Europe? Yes. This is world history. But what do they say now? In the history books, they'll obscure it or obfuscate it by saying, oh, those were Arabs. Already knowing that you're trained to believe, okay, see? So when we can show you proof that the original Arabs, Arab Ariba, as opposed to Arab Mustariba, right? True Arabs were indistinguishable from Africans. True Arabs.
Wow.
Hold on, it gets even better. All of West Africa, you hear me? I'm saying it again. All of West Africa ethnically call themselves Beni Kanana. You know what that means?
No.
Sons and daughters of Canaan. What it refers to is millennia of repeated migrations from the area that we now call Southern Arabia.
So we would be considered Canaanites?
Related. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So the people that practice Ifa or the Yoruba people, are those the same people that were in?
Exact same people. See, again,
now, for the longest, I thought that those people were probably the Levites at some point. That's kind of even why this debate even happened when I did.
Shout out to my good brother Zion Lex, Hebrew Israelite. He was years ago preparing to debate someone who was from the Kemetic community. So guess what he did? He did the smart thing. He studied intently their perspective. And guess what he finds? Oh my goodness, right? Ancient Kemet is connected in antiquity to ancient Sumeria and the Akkadians, which were what? A Canaanite people. So he was just like, wow, I learned something in preparing for the debate. We actually have some things in common that even his adversary wasn't familiar with. So what it is, again, our perspective, our westernized perspectives, we tend to separate and categorize. Okay, you say you're Hebrew Israelite, you can't be African. Oh, you say you're African, or you can't be, you see? When quite often, and most of the time.
Isn't Israel in Africa?
Thank you.
I just thought about that. Israel's in Africa.
Yes.
They're gonna say, oh, it's in Africa, but then, oh, we're not Africans. What?
The Lemba
Israelites. Israel's in
right.
Africa.
You got it. The Lemba tribe in Central Africa have genetic markers to the Kohanes, the Levites. They're really, follow me. European Jewry says that there is no more connection or evidence of connection to the Levites due to the destruction of Jerusalem in AD 70 and the Romans destroying all the records. Wrong. The Lemba tribe is right there with the genetic markers still to this day. And there's nobody in the world that are going to say that they are not African.
Right.
Okay.
So this is when I did my presentation, this is the slide that I created,
Yes. But now, remember narrative again. There's a hidden narrative that the European needed to obscure so that his narrative could be the pervading narrative and rule the world. That's what the Spanish Inquisition was all about. It was about destroying the way a people thought. That's what it was about. You can no longer think the old world way. You get killed. So if you start talking about living energies in the body. Oh, that's witchcraft, and we have to save your soul, which means we got to torture it out of you. You either got to confess you're a witch or we kill you. That's it. See, that's Inquisitionist talk. That's where that comes from.
Yeah.
That's it. So in other words, we've carried over, many of us, even in my organization, we're talking the language of art of Islam from the old world perspective, but we still have the European psychology.
Right.
See? We still have the European psychology. So we're looking at our own technology that came from our spiritual pursuit.
And calling it witchcraft.
And call it witchcraft.
Well, they ain't got nothing to do with me. I ain't know. I ain't from there.
Isn't that something? Isn't that crazy?
And then oh,
what?
here, this is the biggest thing. Well, if they had all that, how they get in the position that they're in right now? Why are they in this position?
Well, okay, I can tell you
how to do this,
that's such a great, but sis, that's such a great question because it happened to us, right? From the Moorish American perspective, Moorish history, right? If we did all this and we ruled the world and we ruled Europe for almost 800 years, how did we fall? You know, we did it to ourselves. That's how. Europe didn't get up and just beat us up. We whooped ourselves through our own degradation. This is how in the East they say it. Follow me. Hard times make strong people. Strong people make good times. Good times make weak people. Weak people make hard times. That's what happened. That's what happened. We collapsed under our own opulence and started fighting each other. And while we did that, Europe organized. At the end of the Reconquista, they organized and whooped us. That's what happened. That's actual history. And then,
and I heard that in Nigeria, people want to believe that we were just over there savage running around. There were buildings. There were buildings, but some of the buildings had windows, some of them didn't. It's in Africa. They don't need windows. Listen, if you have windows, the sun's gonna come in and bake you. Like you need to be open.
To this day, there's ancient technology, and this isn't a secret, that allows you to keep, and preserve ice in the desert. Salahuddin was using this during the Crusades.
Right.
Yeah, this still exists. It's not a secret.
We weren't just a bunch of savages running around here. They didn't discover us with a bunch of into teepee huts and just
But again, remember, to the victor belongs the spoils. And these people were smart enough to understand that, wait a minute, now we're on top. Now we're going to change history. So now everybody's living, the people we conquered are living a false history. They'll never tie themselves back to what they were.
Right.
Okay. See it? And this is what we're dealing with.
How many of the slaves that came over to America were Moors and Hebrew?
Let's talk about that. See, we have to contextualize identification. Let me say that again. We have to be able to properly contextualize identification. DJ Genesis, I believe, you're a mother. Am I correct?
Yes, I'm a mother. Yes.
Beautiful. But DJ Genesis also works, right? Am I correct?
Yes.
They don't call her mom at her job. See that?
No, they don't. Mm-hmm.
We have to contextualize identification. Let's take Jesus of 2,000 years ago. Follow me.
Mm-hmm.
Ethnically, what was he? Ethnically, we would say Habiru, Hebrew. Okay. What tribe? Tribe of Judah. Okay. Bloodline, house of David. Right? Mm-hmm. That's ethnically.
Right.
In the larger scheme of things, the Moabites and the Hebrews or Israelites are descendant of Canaan. Okay. But, right, the area in which he lived is what? Africa, right?
Mm-hmm.
Look at that. Already we got 2 to 3 different ways to identify. Religiously, what was he? Okay. So you get it?
Right.
So we can identify him religiously. That's a third one. Now watch this.
What the practice religion at that time in that part of Africa was Judaism, right?
There you go. Right. So
and ancient and Egyptian religion.
Correct. Now watch this. He lived in Palestine at a time when Palestine was governed by Rome. So what was he sociopolitically? A Roman citizen. See? You see my point?
So Nigeria is colonized by England. So are they Nigerians or are they English?
English subjects, both.
Oh.
Get it? You see?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So there's, in other words, we in the West have been so miseducated on these types of things. So we tend to think either you're this or you're that when you could be both and more. How about that? All depends on context. There's religious identification. There's socio-political identification. That's why in the More Science Symbol of America, and what I'm about to say now, many of us in the organization don't understand. We say, what is your nationality? That's socio-political. That's not religious. That's not ethnic. Let me repeat that again. That's socio-political. Here's an example. Inside the country of Italy, people may identify or distinguish themselves by ethnic group. You've got Bambara, you've got Calabrese, you've got Sicilian. But how do they all identify outside of Italy?
Italian.
Boom. Socio-political encompasses all of that. That's why it is, in our opinion, a more comprehensive way of organizing people in a diaspora. See that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like I said, when you get down to it, was there ever the Arabs? Were they bringing slaves over to the Caribbean as well?
No. Let's talk about it.
So how would Hebrew Israelites go from Israel to America?
Here we go. Okay. First, let's go back to the times, multiple times, when quote unquote Hebrews, and I'm using that, I'm not being, just follow me.
I wouldn't even say Hebrews, right? Let's say Israelites, because I don't think.
Okay, let's say Israelites.
Because Hebrew is a language, right?
There you go.
Israelite is the ethnic group, right?
There we go. Okay.
How did the Israelites?
So let's go back to a point.
And was there a part of West Africa that the Israelites was it the Igbo tribe? That's one. Okay, so
there's
the Israelites.
There's the Igbo, there's the Lemba. There are a number of groups that still preserve Judaism or Hebrewisms to this day in present day on the African continent. There's a number of ethnic groups that do this. Now follow me, right? Okay. We have to go back to a time period where we know there was a metropolitan social existence between Muslims and Israelites.
And West African.
They were all the same people. You see, and that's the part that a lot of us are stumbling on.
Because I would think that the landscape at that time was similar to how America is like. People come in and out of America. People were traveling throughout of Africa. It wasn't like everybody was just landlocked to like one little area and didn't travel outside of that.
You hit on a very powerful point in ethnology, archaeology, sociology, and anthropology. These four disciplines, there's a term, two schools of thought. One is called isolationism. The other is called diffusionism. Isolationism says this, that ancient cultures, ancient societies all slowly developed over millennia, and they didn't have any. If they did, they had very little contact with each other. And if there's any similarities, it's by chance, right? Diffusionism says that ancient cultures from the earliest of times enjoyed a large amount of interaction and cross-cultural pollination. Now, one of these schools of thought supports white supremacy and one does not. Which one supports white supremacy?
Isolationism, because
every day, all day long.
And exactly. And see, here's the thing is that if we're doing it today, then it would only be natural that we would do something. We would do this. Why all of a sudden there would be a huge move towards everybody kind of conglomerate moving around. Even when we didn't have the internet, people moved around.
There you go.
They found ways to travel. They found ways to get from A to B.
There you go. Oh,
So,
exactly. Now, one of the things in more recent time, when I say recent, I'm talking the past 25, 30 years, that literally blew holes in isolationism was when they developed hair follicle analysis. And they did it on Egyptian mummies. And they found cocaine.
Oh, and that comes from South America.
Only place in the world. So you're talking for at least 10,000 years, there was cross-cultural pollination across the Atlantic Ocean.
They were traveling, exactly.
How about that?
They somehow was able to get across that sea. Because that was one argument with this one guy that was talking to me about the Egyptians being Caucasian, because he was like, well, first of all, Caucasians were the first. They never came to America. Egyptians never came to America because they never had any seafaring boats.
Huh?
They said that the Egyptians did not have any seafaring boats.
That whoever that person is has to really, really revisit their Egyptian studies. I'll give an example. There's a Swedish guy by the name of Thor Heyerdahl. Thor Heyerdahl, watch this, made a replica of an old ancient Egyptian reed boat. Called it Thor. He made two of them, Ra 1 and Ra 2. He sailed off the coast of Morocco, the Straits of Gibraltar, and literally made his way to the Caribbean in less than 3 months. Look him up. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I think he did this in the 90s. Or no, maybe earlier. But still, it was recent, very recent. And it was an ancient Egyptian reed boat that he did it with.
Right. Why would people think that they were unable to that's okay.
Here it is.
This boats just popped up out of nowhere one day.
It goes back.
They had to have been developed over time to get better and better to the point where they were like big pirate ships, right?
Yeah, exactly. It goes back
this one area made pirate ships and nobody else knew how.
And nobody else, right. It goes back to the conceit, the European conceit and revisionist history that ancient cultures had no technology. Right.
The first thing that the Asian did when they found out about the car was create one themselves.
How about that?
That's how you do that? Okay, well, let me go ahead and
there you go.
And perfect that formula for you right there.
Right. And so there you go.
I think it'll be a little bit better. Actually, a matter of fact, you can't bring your car over here. You can just send the parts over. We'll assemble it.
We'll do it. Exactly.
Send us the instruction book and we'll put it together.
Yeah. So
send one over here. We're gonna take it apart and put it back together so we can know how to put it.
So we know how to do it. Right.
I don't think that mentality came out of nowhere.
Right. No, it's all Euro-colonialist imperialism. It's European world domination. That's what it is. And so that's the narrative. That's the overreaching narrative. So going back, like for instance, okay, the narrative that the word black is synonymous with slave. So if we
when I say black is synonymous with bleak and bland, or
right, but I mean socially speaking, so not etymologically, but socially speaking. So to the point we think like this, to the point where if we find evidence of pre-Columbian Africans in America, they must have been slaves. That's the presumption.
Yeah.
Now going back to your original question about Arabs bringing Africans to the Americas, right? All right. Research or look up or get anything she writes. Our sister, Dr. Sultana Afroz, A-F-R-O-Z. She's one of the few scholars that has work in the public that's accessible, that speaks about the time period from the early 1500s up to the late 1600s in the Caribbean, and shows the Islamic socio-political backdrop to all of what today is called slave rebellions. Those weren't slave rebellions. Those were intermittent conflicts after our major fall in 1492. There were still people fighting the war. See how that is? Narrative? Get it?
So,
what would the British call the American Revolutionary War? Terrorism. It's all perspective. See that? It's all perspective. They would call it what? A rebellion against the British Empire.
Right.
All right.
They wouldn't
So,
call it a slave revolt.
right. They would not call it that. Now, one last thing. I would like for you to Google this, and if you could, I don't know, maybe put it up. Maybe you could put it up on your screen. Google this real quick. Because this right now we're kind of on the topic, but not really, right?
Right. Well, I was trying to figure out how we're going to bring it.
I got you.
To get into this PowerPoint.
Yeah.
But I want to see this information, this breakdown here.
Yeah. Google
quantum.
I want you to Google this paper. Google these words: the Iberian roots of American racist thought. It's mind-blowing that even the title of such a paper even exists. You see it?
Yeah, that is yeah, I do see it.
Yeah. That's a sociology paper on racism. And what is it saying? That the origin of American racist thought came from Spain.
What?
Yes. Yes. There it is.
Came from Spain.
Spain.
Weren't the Moors in Spain?
Yes. Now you get it.
And not the Moors black? And so what?
Yes.
Racism came from our own people?
Yes.
What? Was it because we were racist against the white people? Or is it because
No. Follow me. I'm going to use another example. Okay? We're taught that race, or that the African transatlantic slave trade, in this present narrative, under this narrative we've been given, we're taught that the African slave trade was commerce and started as commerce. That's a lie. It's a lie. The African transatlantic slave trade began as wartime tactic. It was the continuation of the Crusades. It later became commerce. Okay, that's the truth. That's the real history. Here, I'll give you a great example. You ready? We fought in Vietnam. The United States fought in the Vietnam War, fought against the North Vietnamese, right? What did the United States and its allies call the North Vietnamese or the Viet Cong? Right? When you dehumanize people, you make them easier to kill. So dehumanization is a war tactic, a very effective one, right?
Right.
So what did we call them? Gooks and zipperheads. Remember?
Right. Zipperhead.
All right.
Yeah.
Fast forward to 2024, and you got a third generation American citizen of Vietnamese descent. He goes to fill out an application for a job. Imagine there being a box for race and it says Gook or zipperhead. There you go. That's what happened.
Wow.
That's what happened. Wartime conceits became massaged into the American social fabric.
So black was like a almost a word like zipperhead. Okay.
Yes.
It wasn't nigger, it was black.
Negro. Negro. Which means dead.
Oh.
See?
So yeah, people, people don't even realize that.
No idea.
Now what do they call this now? The FBA, the Foundational Black Americans, right?
So now, with all due respect to the FBA movement, to the ADOS movement, to the BIPOC movement, all of that is lateral movement. It doesn't move you up because it's still culturally and socially ambiguous, isn't it? Yeah. Doesn't tell you where you're from. Doesn't connect you to your actual history. See?
Wow. Well, you know what? Actually, well, no, because they're trying to say, well, we are foundational Black Americans and we come from America. We're 8 generations in at this point, and so. But
guess what? But guess what it does? It still points to the origin as what? Slavery.
Okay.
That's a problem. That's a problem. See?
Well, does it say slavery? Because a lot of them are almost trying to say that a lot of times we will say foundational, that we were here even before slavery.
I get that, but I think
a lot of them start to really get into like the Native Americans weren't really who we thought they were, as far as like these Asiatic people that came across the Bering Strait, but that we were already here.
I get that as well. I can understand that, right? I can understand that. But here's the thing though. did those pre-Columbians, those pre-Columbian dark olive-skinned people call themselves black?
Absolutely, right. Absolutely not. No, they did not.
You see the point?
And if you actually go to Peru, the Andes Mountains, those people have been there for a long time, and
the Chiapas have been there forever. Those people that you're talking about in the Andes have been there forever, and they don't call themselves that
black
because it is a brother. That's why if you go to the Dominican Republic and call them black, you get into a fight. That's why. It's not because they look down on us per se. It's because they weren't fully massaged into the European narrative the way we were on the American mainland.
And I think where there's some kind of people that was similar, like with them Amazonians or whatever, like in Dominican Republic, like those mountain people.
Of course. That's why I mentioned Sister Sultana Afro's work.
Hold on.
Yep.
I'm sorry. My daughter is over. She's like over the top. I'm sorry.
No problem.
Yeah, I'm like, my mommy's spidey senses kicked. Like, whoa, hold on now. Because the dog growled at her.
That's funny.
It's a Chihuahua. Chihuahuas. So I think she's the first time her seeing that.
Right.
So it scared her. Like, oh crap, this dog is weird. So I'm like, girl, get used to it. I don't know why y'all want no Chihuahua.
Exactly.
I don't even like dogs.
So anyway, this was important. I'm glad we did this though prior to the presentation because it's important to discuss narrative. Like we have to challenge the narrative we've been given because that narrative keeps us thinking in a way that's a detriment to us. What is it we end up doing? Fighting each other. That's how we fell.
Right.
That's how we fell. We think about it like this, and then we're going to move forward. We didn't fall because we lost the knowledge of ourselves. We fell knowing full well who we were. We fell because we stopped treating each other like brothers and sisters. That's it. We became disorganized and lazy, and they became organized.
Wow.
That's it.
Did we? Wow. Yeah. I can see that.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, we did have spiritual practices that were amazing. We did the foundation of our spiritual practices because a lot of times people will say, well, I don't understand, the Africans, they ain't doing nothing. They ain't this, they that, they all crazy and backwards. But I'm like, but okay, the people might be crazy, whatever, but the technology and the things that somehow they were able to do back then that they created.
Sis, let me give you another example. There's always plans within plans, right? And then there may be this plan that you could see, but that may be part of a bigger plan that you don't see. Let's give you an example. Remember when the federal government force integrated the South?
Yeah.
And had federal troops escorting the young sister in Little Rock High School, remember?
Yeah.
The Europeans went crazy. So-called white people was bugging out, right? Remember?
Right.
Now, in retrospect, who benefited? Did we benefit or did they?
They did.
Of course, but could those Europeans see it at that time? No.
Nope.
Right. So we got the same type of thing. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
The same type of thing. Here's what it is. Honestly, let's keep it real. From a larger perspective, we were supposed to get whooped. We had a lesson to learn.
Right. Yeah.
We were supposed to get whooped. And even with our powerful spiritual technology, there was a bigger plan. You know what part of that bigger plan involved? You know this, I'm pretty sure as an Epha practitioner, some of the biggest and most generous and most hungry seekers after Epha don't look like us, do they?
They don't. And let me tell you that get the readings. It's people heads of state. I heard Fidel Castro was getting readings.
How about that?
I mean, he practiced Ifa. I think he was a
Yeah.
Babalawo or something like that. I
But
heard so many really
yeah,
high up people, like even actors
of course.
that you would never even think of,
Of course.
what's his name? What is his name? The one with the eye. Not Lawrence Fishburne.
Forrest Whitaker.
Forrest Whitaker.
Mm-hmm.
Donnie, the dude that played Color Purple.
Mm-hmm.
What's his name? Glover. Donald.
Yeah.
Danny Glover.
Danny Glover. Mm-hmm.
All these type of people, they practice Ifa.
Yeah. Lots of
in
them.
Hollywood. There's a lot of people in Hollywood.
Let's talk about elite and heads of state. They do, many of them. So my point being,
or if they don't practice Ifa, they might practice
something related or adjacent.
No, I would say Druidism or whatever it is, but some kind of weird nature-based thing that has.
In other words, sis, they're driving another spiritual car.
Basically. Driving is, yeah, exactly. A car is a car, but
spiritual car.
They just a different way to get somewhere. You know what I'm saying?
You go. And at the same time, we'll openly say, don't you do that because that's bad and that's demonic and that's blah blah blah. You see what I'm saying?
And then they like, well, I'm going to see my astrologist.
How does the West? I'm glad you brought that up. How does the West in general see astrology? Oh, it's fake. It's not real. Guess what? When one of my good brothers and comrades, we got him into political office. He was a star in local politics for over 10 years, and he was chaired economic development for the entire city for 10 years, right? And he just happens to be a master astrologer. So he ran on the Democratic ticket, won. Know what he told me?
Mm-hmm.
When the National Democratic Committee for the United States, you know how they organize their voter database? By astrological sun sign.
What?
Word is born. Yep. Ain't that something? Ain't that something? So you know how we say in the streets, right? Whatever you saying, whatever your mouth is saying, whatever. I'm watching your hands.
Right.
See, I'm watching your hands. You see what I'm saying? And so they could say what they want. That's my brother. Shalom, Mark. Yeah, but they can say what they want. We're watching your hands. Okay, this is what you're doing. See, this is what you're doing. Now, let's talk about this real quick. And matter of fact, hold on. Get references. Hold on. Where is it? Give me a second.
You know, so crazy in Ifa, like, I don't know, like the black on top of the head. That's black is like considered a womb.
Yes. Oh, right.
So I was like,
right. Where is
actually
it?
The womb before creation.
Yeah. Oh, here it is.
That's why we always wear white on our head, because
it's sitting right in front of me. Okay. So now that we could talk about too. But okay. So yeah, shout out, brother, the mighty Hebrew. That's my guy.
People don't even realize like the symbolism and what they be putting on their head.
But see, okay, now to your point, a big part of the Western psychology, a big part of the Western narrative that put us to sleep was the elimination of the notion or the idea that the human psyche and human perception is a scientific instrument. See?
Right.
Yeah.
You know what's so crazy is that, I have been under anesthesia a few times, and I could have swore I saw like some kind of pixelation, like field, like it felt like you know how when a TV goes out, or like
barriers getting blurred between dimensions. Yeah, I know.
And it looks like a computer, like when a computer jar, like
pixelation.
Yes, and I'm like,
yeah.
What's going on here?
Happened to me before. That's happened to me before under anesthesia. I know exactly what you're talking about.
So, especially if they give you like ketamine, or like, because you'll find out what they anesthetize you with, and so
Mhm.
there's some kind of pixel thing going on, some kind of a, I don't know.
So
But
in Chinese medicine, in Chinese bioenergetics, the liver. So when we talk about organs, and you will get this being an Epha practitioner, when we talk about the organs
mm-hmm.
in Chinese medicine, old classical medicine, if we say the heart, we're not just talking about the physical organ. We're talking about its energetic function and its energetic
And
system.
why? And it's interesting. Why do they call a church thing the organ? Organ,
How about that?
right? Sound, vibration,
Yes.
sound,
Now, to the
organ.
liver.
And if you actually look at church organs the way that they used to be,
Yes.
when you would go into those buildings,
Yes.
the building itself was a healing place because
actual fact.
The organs were take up the whole building, and then those circles and all that stuff that was all on there, those on the things, all those things, the colors, the sounds, the organs, all that stuff. The place itself, the temple itself, was a healing center.
Absolutely, without a doubt, a contradiction. So back, I was saying in Chinese medicine, the liver system, the liver energetics, the bioenergetics of the liver system govern a number of things. One of the things it governs, follow me, is the solidification, the rooting of your consciousness in physical 3D reality. Follow me. So anything like that's hallucinogenic impairs that part of liver function so that the doors can be opened.
That's why alcohol destroys the liver.
Improper use over a long period of time.
Because if you think about it, alcohol get processed through the veins. Why would it affect the liver so much?
Yeah,
because there's something important. Yeah,
the toxicity. Yeah, toxicity.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
That has to, the liver has to process the toxins. Yeah.
There you go. So real quick, you're gonna like this, and my brother, the Mighty Hebrew is gonna like this. So we're talking about religion, quote unquote, from the narrative that most of us understand it today, and a African spiritual tradition or African spiritual technology, right?
Right.
And some of the problem is understanding or reconciling them both, right?
Right.
Okay, let's talk about the Hebrew esoteric tradition of Kabbalah.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Well, here's the thing. Most Hebrews that practice like the Torah, like the Black Hebrew Israelites, don't necessarily adhere or recognize the Kabbalah because they say it was written by some guy that I guess he's just the white hat people or whatever. I don't know what they call them the white hats. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
The black hats or something like that. The small hats. The small hats. I said the white hats. They call them the small hats. And so they don't recognize the Kabbalah. And I think that they think it is also like a kind of a witchcrafty type of situation.
But again,
and then they say it's also a separate religion other than
absolutely not.
Hebrew.
Judaism.
That's
right.
And here's another thing. If Hebrew Israelites don't practice Judaism, what do they practice? What is it then? What is it called? Like, is it called? Is it just called the Torah? Do they practice? Is it called Torah? I don't know. I'm confused.
Right. And that's better for them to
I'm sorry. I just had to start to have.
I get it. But that's better for them to elucidate. But make no mistake, whether it's practiced or not, Kabbalah is a part of ancient Hebrew, Hebrewisms, and it is what it is, right? Boom. This European by the name of Albert Schutz is his name.
Albert Schutz.
Albert Schutz. Yep. Schutz. Albert Schutz is practicing. There's the brother.
Hey, how's it going? Welcome to the panel.
Yeah, good to see you, brother.
We got an hour. We got an hour in. We ain't even got to the PowerPoint yet. We just started talking and we forgot about the PowerPoint.
The last time I saw this brother, we were coming out of a meeting, one of our meetings in Brooklyn, right over by Brevoort Projects. He was right down the street. Yo, bro, it's good to see you, bro. You muted. Unmute yourself.
Hey, what's going on, Elder Sharif?
Yes, sir. Yeah, we go back, bro.
I live in Africa now.
That's crazy. That's beautiful.
Yeah, I
That's
live in
beautiful.
Tanzania. Yeah,
Yeah, you know
yeah,
what? Offline, we gotta link up, bro. Because I mean, you have access to some things that you know.
absolutely,
Yeah, 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 yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
I told DJ Genesis you got a real scholar on. I didn't even want to interrupt. I'm just
No,
sitting
bro,
back
no.
with PowerPoint.
Thank you so much. Since we go
Well,
back, me and this brother
he haven't even got to do the PowerPoint because we got to start talking.
about a whole bunch of other stuff. I know, but
Yeah, I
now,
know. Did you get
no,
to
go ahead,
see
bro.
my PowerPoint that I did on Circle 7L
Nah,
station?
I gotta
Because
see
I know
that.
you did. I know you be on there. I was just on Circle 7L. I did a
Ooh,
magnificent PowerPoint.
okay, I gotta see that. I gotta
Yeah,
see that. So, real quick
yeah.
before we get into this presentation, this guy, this European Albert Schutz, he's of course, you know, he's a quote unquote Jew. He's practicing, practicing Kabbalist. But as you know, brother, the vast majority of knowledge, knowledge on Kabbalah is all philosophical, right? But he heard about a very secret operative Kabbalah, right? That's more technical, that involves the human body. And so, but anytime he asked any of his other comrades that were rabbis, either they denied it existed or they said, I can't talk about it. So, and that Sister Genesis, he had to think. He said, man, if it's so secretive, why is it so secretive? And when was there a time when the Jews or the Hebrews or the Israelites were not persecuted so heavy? And he said, oh, in history, that was when they coexisted with the Muslims. So what does he do? Where does he go and find the secrets of the operative Kabbalah? Amongst the Bektashi Sufis in Istanbul, Turkey. The result of that is this book right here.
What
That
you
is
know about that piece right there? I got I
that's the
put on that content right here in the mechanics of Kabbalah thought that he exposes, and he says that he got his information from out in Turkey. Absolutely.
ooh, see, his brother knows. Yeah. And so so from our perspective, it's because not just okay, there was coexistence. Essentially, we're all the same. And we didn't trip so hard back then on differences in practice or expression. You know what I'm saying? We didn't trip so hard over it back then, but we do so now because
Facts.
of how we've been trained to think. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, so Sister Genesis, like the contents of this book, you would find very intriguing because it would literally, in a sense, bridge the gap between what you do and our brother Mighty Hebrew. I promise you. You would see connections. Like, okay, like we talked about the car. Okay, your car's four-wheel drive. My car is rear-wheel drive or front-wheel drive. You get it? And then, but the Mighty Hebrews car can switch, right? So different functions, but they're all still cars. You see? Yeah, and let's be real. If any spiritual system is to be effective, and all of them practiced properly have effectiveness. Why? How do we know? Because of the transformation of our own lives.
Mm.
See what I'm saying? That's the evidence. So if it's transforming us, there's effectiveness. And if there's effectiveness, that means there's something in it that has spiritual mechanics that affects us in our flesh, inside of us. You see what I'm saying? Even if we're
Oh,
just
and
talking about
while you're here, I wanted to just give a shout out. I wanted to say rest in completeness to the Moorish brother, Richard Neil Bey.
it's my
He made
guy, man.
transition,
Yes, he
you know what I
did.
mean, yesterday. So I just want to
Yesterday.
give a shout out to his
Thank you,
family
brother.
and to
Appreciate that.
mine.
Yeah, beautiful. That's, and so it's, man, we have so much in common. You know what I mean? All of us, We have so much in common, and the beauty. Now it takes work. It takes work. I see Sister Genesis. She goes, man, I practice Epha and da 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 da. And I'm like, man, that sounds crazy. I don't know what in the world that is. And she said something about Odu, and I'm like, man, that sounds kind of, I don't know. You know, so because that's how we're trained to think on the surface, right? But then it's like, okay, well, let's have a regular conversation. All right, we're having just a regular conversation, and something comes out the sister says, and I'm like, wait a minute, we say that. Well, wait a minute, you know, the prince said blah, 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 blah. I'm like, wow, hold on. Let me tell you, the very first meeting I've ever been to with Hebrew Israelite meeting was not long after I did that debate with Brother Reggie in 2016. It was at Zion Lex's, their place in Brooklyn. And myself and a number of, yes, sir. Right. And so my Sister Genesis, I'm telling you, we were there, and me and some other members from the temple were there. It was almost disturbing. I'm going to tell you why. Because it sounded so much like our meetings. I was like, hold on. It sounded so much like our meetings. I was like, wow. And then other brothers who were Hebrew Israelites were coming up to us going, man, your vibe feels familiar. I'm like, yeah, yours does too. It was really, really interesting. You know what I mean?
That's really the thing that I was trying to do in the first place, is mainly to say, like, you know, I think that there, as much as we think is different, and one is doing like this and bad, and the other one is whatever, you find it's a lot of similarities. You know what I'm saying? I think, and in the culture, how things are run, you know, the actual foundation of it is very similar.
Now, here's another thing too, though. Let's keep this a buck too, right? We're being honest, but this is also a good thing, because I know me, right? Man, I want the all-city team. You know what I'm saying? I want the all-city team. So there's a part of me, I'm just being real. There's a part of me that wants to see Hebrew Israelite with a fez on saying Islam. There's a part of me, not because I say what he's doing is wrong, but because that's a strong brother. You get it? Yeah, there's a part of me that's like, yeah, come on, bro. But nah, that's just a part of me. I know that unity doesn't necessarily mean uniformity.
But you know what, Epha, there's people that are Epha that are Muslim. There's people that's Epha that are.
Yes.
I mean,
we talked about that.
Hebrew Israelite, you know, they both like, because Epha is just a, you know, that it's just a library of information.
Right.
People get it mixed up. They get it confused. They think it's a religion. It's like, no, it's just the information source.
Right.
One shouldn't really, like, you know, be surprised if they actually seen an Israelite with a fast, because if we go to 1899 and we talk about the Moorish Zionist temple with the Moorish Jews, then we know that there's a connection with the Israelites and the Moorish Zionist temple of America, also known as the Canaanite temple, that came in 1930. And when we start to talk about the Moorish conquest of Iberia, which became Portugal and Spain, in 711, Tariq ibn Ziyad's mother was Queen Canina. Queen Canina was an Israelite from the tribe of Simeon. We know that the Moorish Empire was consisted of Israelites and Muslims that went and conquered Portugal. So it wouldn't be a surprise to an Israelite with a fast, because Israelites geopolitically are in fact Moors. So that's, you know what I'm saying? So that's not.
See, again, brother, you have an informed perspective. You know what I mean? You have an informed perspective. A lot of us, and again, it goes back to narrative. We've been taught to think, that's what we call in the Moorish Science of America, the Negro problem. The Negro problem is, man, we may shake hands and smile at each other, but in my mind, I'm thinking every Negro for himself. You see what I'm saying? And we've been trained to think that way. So the heavy lifting for us isn't so much as, you know, I know this about that and this information, that information. The real heavy lifting for us is, you know what? Can I put my hand in my brother, you know, Mighty Hebrew's hand, and can we work together? That's it. Can I work with my sister? That's the heavy lifting, because that's what caused us to fall to begin with. When we stopped doing that, you know, and then we justified it with differences. with surface differences. You see what I'm saying?
When you get a chance, I need you to watch that PowerPoint presentation because I think it's going to make you very happy. I was talking about the Lemurian and the Atlantean root epic, right?
Okay.
And I took ancient Lemuria back roughly 187 million BCE, trickled down to BCE to the destruction of the Lemurian Empire through volcanic eruption, which in turn the Remoros moved from Madagascar to West Africa and pushed to South Africa during the time known as City of the South, and then they formed the Atlantic epic. I think you will find it very interesting. I already did part one on this station as well, and the one I did 7L, it's like almost 5 hours long. I think you should check that joint out.
Yeah, you was cooking. You was cooking.
I like the fact that we have this. You see how we are talking on this panel, and we're smiling and sharing information. We're not debating with each other.
It's dope.
You know, one
That's
person,
right.
one
That's
hand
right.
sharpens the other, steel sharpens steel. Hey, check out my presentation. I'll check out yours. That's what's needed. I'm sorry. I
watch the Sharif for years. I seen the piece when you was break. I wish you would have got a little bit more into it, but I already know it's in the surface for why. But you was breaking down how Mori Yeshua Bar Yosef, them 17 years he went to the Indus Valley, which is absolutely true. You know what I'm saying? And I seen he was on it. I think it's called you got like a series on it. You don't have just one part. You got like three, 4 parts.
You're talking about the Real Jesus series.
Yeah, that's it. You ain't seen that whole line joint that I sent to you. I was like, yo, he dropping. And a lot of people don't know for Saint Isa and how there are actual records in the Tibetan monasteries that proves that the man actually existed. This dude sees a Jesus, so-called Christ, isn't the real Mori Yeshua. So I appreciate that piece that you put together, and I'm appreciating. You know, I just seen your new Kung Fu skit too. I'll be watching with the Grandmaster. You went in on the Grandmaster. Why you do that to him, Sharif? Why?
Oh man, I'm just trying. Brother, I appreciate your eyes, man. You know, we all want to be useful. You know, not just to ourselves, but we want to be useful to each other. You know what I mean? There's people that I'm able to reach, and that you, or vice versa. There's people that you may be able to reach, and if I run into those people, I gotta send them your way. You know what I mean? That's because we're all, at the end of the day, we're all one family. We're all one family. You know what I mean? We're all one family. We really, really, really are. This is like the sister said. This is a dope conversation. You know, and it's this kind of energy that has to be. We got to make this the new wave. You know what I'm saying? We made this the new wave, not the whole, okay, it's always got to be button heads and stuff like that. Nah, you know, it's that becomes, you already know. At the end, it becomes entertainment. It becomes ice cream for bedwetters. That's what it becomes. You know, people that just want to be entertained and say, but Sister Genesis and Brother Mighty Hebrew, you all are not trading cards for other people to be trading back and forth. You know, we have way more value than that. You know what I'm saying?
With that being said, I really want to get into this presentation.
I know, right? I know.
Let's go. We started talking. We forgot that we were supposed to be showing the presentation.
Exactly.
Haven't I been ready? When I seen that
almost
you
like a barbecue, like we got the barbecue. We were supposed to do a performance, and we just started talking and forgot that we were supposed to perform.
I've been waiting over a week for this. And Sister DJ Genesis to tell you, when I heard that she was coming on, I said, "Oh, shucks, I got this." And it's like where I'm at is 4:34 a.m. right now. So I went, yeah. I live in two places. I live in Dimona, Israel, and I live in Tanzania, East Africa.
That's beautiful, bro.
Yeah.
So, all right,
Yeah.
you know what? Let me give him the presentation because I was about to ask him about 10 questions. So let me
Right. Ask it after the presentation. When you can come back up and we get back on it right after the presentation. Well, you still gonna probably be in the background, but
because brother,
I'm gonna drop down. I'm gonna let you present because if we keep
Yeah.
going, we will never get to the presentation.
I know. So pull up the one, more science and quantum physics. Pull that one up. There we go. Beautiful.
Okay.
Good. All right, next slide. So I'm saying Moorish science and quantum physics. Let's speak to that real quick. Moorish science. What do we mean by that? Earlier we were talking about narrative being the secret, how we think about a thing, right? So to change a people, you change their narrative. The Spanish Inquisition changed the world because it changed how people thought. The old world way of thinking was literally terrorized out of the people. See? So in a general sense, when we say Moorish science, what we're speaking to is the restoration of the narrative of our forefathers. That's what we're really saying. So, all right, so this slide right here, science versus scientism. European psychology's impact on spiritual investigation. So this is a big part of what I meant by the narrative being changed on how people think. So science defined, the Latin word sciere meaning to know. Science in that respect is neutral to religion. I could prove it. The word theology means the science of God or the science, science of deity, right? And so over time, it's come to mean the organized study of physical reality, right? It's come to mean that over time, or an empirical or sensory means of knowledge or knowing the material world. In other words, under the European psychology, if it's not physical, it can't be known, even if something non-material exists. How about that? Let me repeat that. According to the European psychology, if it is not material, it cannot be known, even if something non-material exists. Now, this stands in stark contrast to the Islamic view of reality. And when I say Islamic view, I'm not talking about religious practice. I'm talking about old world perspective on how we think. Let's start with this one, and I can quote our brothers in the Israelite tradition. Hear, O Israel, the Lord thy God is one. It doesn't say the Lord thy God is one God. It says the Lord thy God is one, meaning the unity of all. And anything that is categorized, differentiated from that unity exists within the unity, not outside of it. See? Okay. So what does that mean? The Islamic view of reality, when we say Islam, we don't mean, like I said, a particular practice, religious practice. When we say Islam, the word Islam means peace. Mathematically, it means the resolution of opposites, meaning going from 2 to 1. That's it. Peace means oneness, right? So when we're thinking in that way, which is the same thing as our brothers, our Hebrew Israelites brothers saying God is one. Because we say it too in the Arabic, Kul huwallahu ahad, Allah is one, right? That means that the physical and material world is a small part of the total reality. See? So if you just confine your search of knowledge to the things that are part of the material world, that's not really science. That's why we call it scientism. What the European did with the teachings of Jesus or Yeshua, what the European did to Islam with the modernist movement, right? The reformist movement of Islam, which birthed out of it came Saudi Arabia, right? What he did with that, he did with science too. Let's go on the slide. Scientism. The claim that modern science, right, i.e. the empirical means of knowing the material world, has a monopoly on knowledge. Could you back up? Next slide, back up, previous slide. There we go. Scientism is the claim that modern science has a monopoly on knowledge. Woo! Okay, let's repeat that. I want everybody to to really think about those words. The claim that modern science has a monopoly on knowledge, isn't that exactly how we've been trained to think? Science is not scientism, but being confined to the use of the scientific method as the only way to knowledge is an indoctrination into scientism. Now, follow me on this point. The profound internal contradiction in scientism is this. It is impossible to know whether the only way to truly know anything is by using your physical senses, In other words, they're like, scientism says this: if your physical senses can't detect it, it's not real. Well, guess what that means? That means that you can't know anything outside your physical senses. That's not science, people. The contradiction makes it internally inconsistent and self-refuting. The assertion, if it's true, proves itself false, meaning it can't be science. Scientism is not science. It is simply bad philosophy. Thus, we are dealing with scientism versus religion, not science versus religion. Y'all catch that? It is a philosophical and ideological construction of science as an alternative worldview. It seeks to supplant the worldview of true religion and reduce religion to mere ethics without a claim over the nature of reality. In this particular instance, Sister Genesis, this also includes Epha. Because they would call, according to Western psychology and the Western narrative, they'd say Epha is just another religion. And you know and I know that Epha is scientific, right? And properly understood, Torah is no less scientific, right? But the commonality is that it's scientific in the sense of measuring and analyzing and detecting non-physical phenomena and how it affects physical phenomena. See?
Wow.
See? So we always have to, especially in the world we live in, address the narrative first, how we're thinking. See? We always got to address that first. We can't presume that we know how to think just because we got thoughts in our head. How about that? Anybody who knows anything about advertising and marketing know that just because you got thoughts in your head don't mean that you thought them. Right? Next slide.
Wow. That's a good point. That's good. That's good.
See what I'm saying? All right. Quantum mechanics is a fundamental field of study in physics that describes the behavior of nature at and below the atomic scale. This is powerful. We were taught, right, coming up, that the most basic and fundamental building block of reality is the atom. And I know you all asked the same question I did when you first heard that when you were children. Well, how can that be? Well, what are the atoms made of? And what are those things that make the atoms made of? And so on and so on and so on, right? Okay. Now we're getting to a point where the fact that quantum mechanics even exists is proof that the European psychology had to be dragged kicking and screaming back to the old world way of thinking. Because it's quantum mechanics that describes and identifies the fact that ancient religious systems and ancient spiritual systems were in fact and are in fact technology. See? Because what is beyond particle physics is field and energy physics, people. The measurement of subtle fields. And it's these fields. That's why they talk about today, light having both particle and wave function. And what makes the difference between light having particle and wave function? Human perception. When you observe the light, it behaves like a particle. When you don't observe it, it behaves like a wave. How about that? See? Quantum systems have bound states that are quantized to discrete values of energy, momentum, angular momentum, and other qualities. Measurements of quantum systems show characteristics of both particles and waves. Quantum biology, now this is where we get to what we're talking about, is the field of study that investigates processes in living organisms that cannot be accurately described by the classical laws of physics. This is where true religion and true spiritual systems, right, come into play. This is where. Quantum mechanics is the modern scientific method of investigating non-physical phenomena. Thus, we can expect it to approach, address, and verify truths long asserted by old world religious teachings. Next slide. All right. Cool stuff right here. So back in 1895, these two European occultists, scientific occultists, C.W. Ledbetter, Charles Ledbetter, and Annie Besant, they performed a series of experiments, psychic experiments, into the basis of matter, three-dimensional matter. They drew what they saw. You're looking at it at the right. Okay? What they quote unquote discovered clairvoyantly. They discovered, and they called this particle the Anu. That's what they called it in 1895. They said that this particle is the smallest thing that can exist that has mass. In other words, that can exist in three-dimension space-time, in 3D. Okay? The smallest state of matter that can exist in 3D. It's connected through a ring singularity to classical radius black hole in exotic space-time. In other words, what does that mean? This particle is literally a miniature wormhole connecting higher realms of existence to 3 dimensions. Well, guess what? In the 1990s, the Compton radius vortex of the electron was discovered. And guess what it looked like? Exactly what you're looking at right here. And its properties were also determined as well, meaning it is a doorway connecting the higher planes of existence to 3-dimensional space-time. Next slide. Ooh, look at that. Doesn't that look like the previous slide we were just looking at? This is cutting edge information, medical information, scientific and medical information about the human heart. The human heart is what? It mimics what the Compton radius vortex does. Fluid flow dynamics indicates that the heart is not a propulsion pump. It is a negative charge. It is the negative charge halo around each red blood cell, which repel each other and in a tube create perpetual motion. This negative charge causes flow. The heart assists through suction, pulling the blood up and vortexing it out, which gives more energy to continue flowing after it leaves the chambers. There are about 50 smaller vortices inside the heart that are attached to different body organs. So that means that inside the heart, there are energetic vortices that are connected to other body organs and functions energetically. In other words, wired in a quantum sense to other organs. All of these processes generate magnetic fields around the body. So your heart, in a very real sense, is also a doorway to the higher realms. Ain't that something? Next slide. All right. Now we're talking about something that was a part of old world. It was presumed in old world science that the Western world said, no, it doesn't exist. What's called the luminiferous ether. So like we live in an atmosphere where there's air, right? That becomes the medium by which light can travel. Get it? All right. Sound can travel. Light travels through water. It's a more dense medium. Sound does as well. It's a more dense medium. So the ether is considered a medium by which, like out in space, for instance, light can transmit. See? And so early in Einstein, let's talk about Einstein. early in his career, Einstein said, nah, it doesn't exist. He initially debunked the idea of the ether. And that went published widely. But in his later years, when he was much more advanced, he picked it back up and said, yes, it does exist. That was not highly publicized. That wasn't highly publicized. Two other independent groups of scientists recently, in 2018, by the way, revived the theory after their research indicated a relationship between dark matter and how ether was expected to behave. Woo. Okay, here's another fact that quantum mechanics proves that sheds more light or further validates the existence of ether. The fact that you have what we call quantum entanglement. You've got an atom here and an atom on the other side of the universe, literally. But if they're quantum entangled, whatever I do to this one affects this one instantaneously. There's a connection, but the connection happens on a higher realm that can be viewed in 3 dimensions. So there must be a medium, and quantum mechanics answers that. We used to think, the Western world thought that space is empty. Well, our ancient forefathers knew better. And now through quantum mechanics, the quantum physicists know better too. Space is a fabric. Space can be folded. Space can be manipulated, just like time can. See? Because time is a function of space. See? So what is quantum, as we said earlier, what is quantum mechanics doing? It's verifying the old ancient spiritual systems of our forefathers. That's what it's doing. Next slide. All right. Now we're talking, and again, what are we talking here? Are we talking religion or are we talking science? The answer is yes, both. That's the answer. Yes.
Yes. We talking about religion or science? Yes.
Yes, exactly. See? So we could prove through, we have hard, because again, we live in the Western world, Western psychology. We're still, many of us, even though we may know better, we're still hardwired to think that if it's not on some scientific white paper with some complicated formula, then it can't be real. Okay, that's what you need, no problem. We got white paper, quantum mechanics, that shows this stuff. The fact that you have something called a Bose-Einstein condensate, or the fact that you have something called a Compton radius vortex in physics. And then all you got to look at is the characteristics of these things. You look at the characteristics, like, wait a minute. I know what that is. We just call it this in my spiritual tradition. We just call it this in my religious tradition. It's the same thing. So a Bose-Einstein condensate is considered a 5th state of matter. It's a mini wormhole or portal between dimensions, just like the Compton radius vortex we saw earlier. It generates, here we go, listen to this. It generates what's called a Meissner field. A Meissner field repels a magnetic field, which means we cannot analyze it with conventional machinery. It repels the magnetic field and facilitates quantum entanglement. You know what that means? That means anything inside of a Meissner field is quantum entangled with anything else in any other Meissner field anywhere in the universe. See?
What does that mean, entanglement? What does it mean, it's tangled in?
Okay.
It becomes a part of it, or what does it mean?
I'm glad you asked that question. You know from your tradition that distance healing is possible, isn't it? Not just possible, but routine. Am I correct?
Yes. Yep.
Well, what's the medium? And how is it happening if you could do it on the other side of the world where you're in different time zones and it happens instantaneously? That means whatever the medium is outside time and space as we know it. Am I correct?
Right. Yeah.
That's called quantum entanglement.
Okay. Okay.
See?
Right. Because you really you think I'm across the seas, but really I'm right here next to you.
How about that?
Essentially, you think it's that time, but it's really.
Or hold on, we are physically speaking, miles and miles and miles away in different time zones, but you can affect the healing that happens to me instantaneously, which means the medium by which the healing occurred does not exist in 3D time and space.
Wow.
It happens instantaneously. That's quantum entanglement. See? It's just another way of saying, Hero Israel, the Lord thy God is one. Well, there ain't no such thing as oneness plus you. Get it?
Right, right.
So when you recognize the oneness, is there a time lag? No. Is there space difference? No.
That's probably why the internet is so interesting, huh?
Yes, yes. The internet, in a sense, is an artificial ether plane where experiences can happen. It's another world. See? All right, next slide, next slide. Oh, wait a minute. Nope, stay back on that slide. So, Mighty Hebrew, you're going to like this. Look at what it says in the second part of the slide, ORMS. The word ORMS is, or ORMUS, is an acronym for orbitally rearranged monoatomic elements. So you hear people talk about gold, you know, monoatomic gold and things like that. Yes, monoatomic gold is not colloidal gold. It's something different. Okay? Without going into all the deep or the technicalities of what monoatomic gold is, let's just, okay, here it is. When Moses, right, led the children of Israel, actually, when he first went out of Egypt for killing the Egyptian guard that was abusing the one Hebrew Israelite, he goes into the Sinai Peninsula, Mount Horeb, the ancient Mount Horeb, at the base of it. He meets his to-be father-in-law, Jethro. He goes up on the Mount Horeb and meets El Shaddai, right? Lord of the mountain, Lord of the burning bush, right? Okay. Comes down, right? Well, anyway, and then later when he leads the children of Israel out, they go there, and he goes up on that mountain, comes down with his face glowing. He has to put a veil over his face so he doesn't scare the Israelites. At one point, he goes up and he's gone there for a while. The Israelites get antsy. They talk to Aaron and like, yo, what's going on? Is he dead? Da, 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 da. What are we going to worship? And Aaron builds a golden calf. Moses comes down off the mountain, sees them worshiping the golden calf, gets ticked off. What does he do? According to Exodus, burns, and I put that in air quotes, burns the gold, strews it over the water, and makes them drink it. Now, of course, many of us are led to believe that that was a punishment. In 1901, a very real Indiana Jones, his name was Sir Flinders Petrie. In 1901, he is doing excavations in the Sinai Peninsula, specifically the mount called Khatam al-Serabit. Serabit, that's what it's called. That's the ancient Mount Horeb. Guess what he finds up there? He finds an old Egyptian-style temple dedicated to the goddess Hathor. What was Hathor's symbol? A golden calf. Guess what he finds up there? These huge, well, first of all, there's all these hieroglyphic hieroglyphic indicators of something that they called stone or they called bread, right? And these huge vats of what looked like to him a fine white ash or powder. Long story short, it was a manufacturing plant to turn metal gold into white powder monoatomic gold. And it was used to, according to the ancient tradition, deify the kings. Now, why is this deep? Well, it's deep for a number of reasons. Monoatomic elements exist in the human body. Monoatomic elements behave exactly like Bose-Einstein condensate and Compton radius vortex. In other words, it's exotic matter. It exists in two different dimensions simultaneously. White powder gold or monoatomic gold is ingested into the human body to replenish and build the light body. Listen close. There's many places in the world where you don't have to actually manufacture it. You can precipitate it naturally. One of the greatest places in the world to naturally precipitate M-state gold is the Qumran area, the Dead Sea, where another religious political society existed that was contemporary with the Pharisees and the Sadducees, which is who? The Essenes, of which Jesus or Yeshua was a member. See? Powerful stuff, people. Next slide. Cutting-edge scientific descriptions of the plane of soul and the seven ether planes. Okay. Now, that's terminology that we use, right, in the More Science Symbol of America, our expression of Islam. But the seven ether planes are also immortalized in the Hebraic tradition, right? With the menorah, right? And the seven candlesticks. Okay. Seven worlds. That's what we're talking about here. Now, quantum physics gives hard Western perspective proof of these higher realms of existence. Look up these three scientists, David Bohm, Rupert Sheldrake, and our sister in China, Mei Wan Ho. David Bohm called it the implicate order, a higher energy design order for everything in three dimensions. Here we go. It was commonly thought up until a particular point that anything that the body's capability, the origin of its capability to correct and repair itself came from the DNA. But we know that often DNA corrects itself. So where is it getting its instructions from? David Bohm gave it a name, the implicate order, meaning in the higher dimensions, there's a blueprint of the perfect you that then downloads into three dimensions and informs three-dimensional reality of its order of existence. Rupert Sheldrake called it the morphogenic field, the same as the implicate order, but for living things. And then our sister Mei Wan Ho took it a step further. She called it the biogenic field, or superconductivity in living systems, and proved its existence. Proved its existence. How consciousness is sourced from the higher dimensions into 3D biological realm. You had something, sister?
No, I was trying to make it, I think I was trying to show the slide and yourself so you can see you and the slide,
Got you. All right, next slide. Actually, sis, real quick, can I take a bathroom break real quick? Yes? All right, I'll be right back.
I love who I am. I'm loving me. Look in the mirror. Unapologetically love what I see. Love who I am. I am invincible. I am a fan. My curves and my features, God makes no mistakes. I am successful. I am what it takes. I'm bulletproof. And I'm 100 proof. And I love who I see. Because I'm living my truth. I'm invincible. I'm incredible. A star in the making. I reach past the clouds. I'm invincible. I'm incredible. And no one can stop me. Can stop me now. I'm invincible.
Say, every person in our nation has benefited from that work. Everywhere I go, I tell people, look, you may not be a union member, you better thank a union member. For the 5-day work week, you better thank a union member for sick leave, you better thank a union member for paid leave, you better thank a union member for vacation time.
All right, we are back. Now, I think I jumped ahead of myself a little bit, but I'd mentioned this already, so we'll mention it again. Sir Flinders Petrie's expedition to Sarabit el-Qadim. He discovers the Egyptian temple dedicated to the goddess Hathor, first established during the Middle Kingdom. He discovered it in 1905. I said 1901. I was wrong. Finds numerous hieroglyphic references to a that's the lettering. I can't pronounce it properly. MFKZT, but I believe our Hebrew brothers can pronounce it. Also, the term shamana, which was from derived manna, stone or bread, indicated by a triangle-shaped symbol. Also found were huge vats of what he initially thought was a fine white ash. This was not ash. This was actually much later determined to be monoatomic gold. This powdered gold was and is the physical philosopher's stone. This temple was literally a manufacturing plant for this powdered gold, the biblical manna. The high priest of this temple during the 18th dynasty was entitled in the Aramaic El Shaddai, biblically the Lord of the mountain or Lord of the burning bush. The apocryphal book of Jasher identifies El Shaddai as none other than Jethro, the Midian sheik from the plains of Moab, according to Lawrence Gardner. That was Moses' father-in-law who actually initiated him on that mountain. Now, you're going to like this, sister. There's an old Semitic word called avod. This Semitic word is translated to mean worship, but actually means work. Thus, a temple is a laboratory or workshop, and the priesthood are scientists.
Bro, have you ever seen what monoatomic gold look like?
Yes, I have some.
It looks very strange. I was like, what is this? I bought some, and I said, you know what? I don't know who could have been making. I don't know what this is.
I've been researching monoatomic gold for over 10 years.
What are they? How do they make that? What are they doing?
Okay, well, I can describe the process if we're going to make it from metal gold. I can describe the process. It's dangerous. It has to be done in certain specific conditions. So let's say we have a sample of metal gold. From basic chemistry, metal feels a particular way, wood feels a particular way. Why? Because of the bonds made with the electrons to the atoms, right? Their bonds determine texture, how they feel, whatever. All right, so they're metal to metal bonds with gold. What happens is a high energy electric arc is fired onto the metal sample for an extended period of time. When this happens, the gold atoms, the nucleus of those atoms begins to vibrate or rotate very fast. So fast that it elongates like a cat's iris and it forms what's called a dumbbell atom. The electrons form on both sides. And then the nucleus flexes so that the electrons pair. And this is called in science a Cooper pairing. When this happens, that atom, the metal, the electrons all rotate in the same direction. That's why it's called monoatomic. And when they rotate in the same direction, the metal to metal bonds fall apart and you have pure gold, but it's a powder, not a metal anymore.
So it's a powder. How do they get it into a liquid format?
We put in, you just use water, simple.
And
so it's like
and you're supposed to drink that and it's supposed to make your body feel better?
Oh, it does a lot of things. listen, sis. I have my own brand.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah, we're not playing. So, so it's now an exotic. It's literally what's called exotic matter. It exists in 2 dimensions simultaneously. It straddles the line.
Wow. So it's actually gold, but it's just they stripped it down.
It is the philosopher's stone of the alchemists.
Wow.
Yes,
that's actually true alchemy. So we talking about alchemizing energy, y'all. And he up here talking about some taking some gold and eating it and breaking it down into a powder.
That's real.
So so they didn't physically break gold down into a powder. They did a process that broke it down. And they used to do this back in the day as well.
Yes, this is ancient tech. This is yes.
So how did they had the machines to be able to do this? Does it take a kind of machine, or just the sun, or like something?
Could be. Well, here. Okay, see now, follow me, right? There was during the Manhattan Project.
Wait, hold on. I'll say that. The reason why I say that is because I know that today they're probably using a machine to make that.
Yeah, exactly.
But now, so I'm like,
okay, you caught it, right?
So
now,
how the heck did they do it back then?
Okay, that's the good question.
Okay.
See, because follow me. During the Manhattan Project, for instance, okay, remember one of the scientists, Oppenheimer, when the test bomb actually exploded, a number of the scientists were surprised because they didn't believe it would. But when it did, Oppenheimer quoted something. He said, "Behold, I have become death, the destroyer of worlds." Very telling. Why? Because that quote was attributed to the Hindu goddess Kali. But why? Because there's ancient Hebrew text that describes similar destructions happening in ancient times. Shout out to Brother Mighty Hebrew. This is what he was talking about. The destruction of Lemuria and the Rama Empire.
Wait, that's weird. He said that. So do you think that's what he was trying to do the whole time?
No, that's what
to embody Kali.
No, well, he spoke to ancient technology.
Okay.
Where there were nuclear destruction of cities.
Wow, yeah.
There's a place, you can look this place up now. It's called Mohenjo-Daro in ancient India, or in India, present India. It's called Mohenjo-Daro, that still carries all the physical characteristics of a nuclear apocalypse, where even the soil is turned to glass. It's still there.
Wow.
But now, to this point, there was this mysterious writer who knew Oppenheimer and some of the scientists on the Manhattan Project, and they wrote him a letter. Guess what it said? What you're doing is not new. In ancient time, the same effects were generated simply by putting certain specific elements and placing them in certain geometric shapes.
Wow.
Yeah.
So they were probably able to create the Ormus simpler than we can do it now.
Absolutely.
Because for some reason we have lost touch with our ancient ways.
Correct.
And we've lost touch with that.
We've lost touch.
Can simply do it maybe by moving circles together.
Maybe.
We now have to create a whole machine that's collected to some electricity.
Exactly.
That's right. Pulling some doing all this other stuff. Wow. Okay.
Crazy, right?
Yeah.
Next slide. Next one. There we go. Mysteries of Jesus. I mentioned this earlier, right? There's a connection to this ancient Egyptian tradition and secret to the bloodline of Jesus or Yahshua. Esau, the firstborn. Now, this, forgive me, my Hebrew Israelite brothers. You may not agree with this. That's okay. Don't castigate your brother. This is just our research and our perspective. Esau, the firstborn of we already know, right, of Isaac. I'm sorry, not of Isaac, but was it Isaac? I believe it was Isaac. Firstborn, entitled to the birthright, but gave up his birthright for a bowl of soup. In other words, to gratify his lower self. Esau was the father of Igroth, and Igroth was the mother of Queen Tai. Queen Tai was the junior wife of Amenhotep III. Okay, let's back up for a second. Remember, shout out to my brother Zion Lex. I was talking about how he was doing research because he was going to debate a brother from the Kemetic community and stumbled upon the fact that Ancient Egypt or ancient Kemet can find roots and connections to the ancient Sumerians. And remember, Abraham was of the Chaldees, right? Okay, cool. So in this particular expression or extrapolation of the lineage, we have Queen Ty being connected to the ancient Sumerians or the Akkadians. Queen Ty was the junior wife of Amenhotep III, and Amenhotep III was the father of Akhenaten, or what some researchers would call the Moses or the Musa. Akhenaten's second wife, Mary Kiba, and Mary Amun, and Miriam, was from whom the Egyptian royal line evolved into the royal house of David. Kiba Tesheret, the daughter of Moses and Miriam, and her husband Rama of the family of Judah, links the dynastic Egyptian line to the house of David. To us, as members of the Moorish community, this is one of the major things that makes Yeshua so special, because he was the embodiment to us of the kingly line and the priest line put together. See? So that's why that's significant for us. We'll say in our questionnaire, we say, where was he born? In Bethlehem of Judah, in the house of David. The house of David meaning what? A dynastic family line. Yep, next slide. Thank you. No, go back and go back. There we go. Human consciousness. Right? Transduction from higher planes into 3D matter. Right? What do we find? High Ormus concentrations naturally occurring in neural tissue and connective tissue. This is all hard science.
Well, you're saying that, wait. You're saying Ormus already exists in our body?
Yes.
Gold.
Yes.
Gold?
Yes. M-state hydrogen, M-state gold, and M-state platinum group metals. Yes. What do we mean by M-state? Monoatomic, meaning high spin state. Yeah. High spin state meaning what? Exists in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Correct.
And this is not to cut you off, Elder Sharif, but there's historical evidence that we even ate gold.
Yes. Yes, brother. Exactly.
Well, no, that's what he's talking about. That's what this Ormus he's talking about is
Yes.
this is how they ate it. They would break it down from a mononuclear state, and then they would ingest it as a powder. They didn't just eat, like, take a gold and just bite into somebody.
Right.
They broke it down monoatomically.
That's fact.
Yeah, it was more like a gold dust. Yes.
You hear what he just said? He just correct.
Yeah.
See? That's it. That is it. That is it. So, Ormus facilitates the link between the 3D plane, in other words, plane of manifest, and higher planes of existence. Connective tissue information conduction is faster than neural conduction. This is big. Our sister Mei Wan Ho in China is one that mainly discovered this. Gel-Sol binary state for information transduction. In other words, the high concentration of monoatomic elements in the human body exists throughout the brain, cerebral spinal fluid, and the connective tissue highway, but it's in a Gel-Sol binary state. What is that? Ones and zeros. The matrix, people. Just like your computer.
Just like Epha.
Just like Epha. How about that? Ones and zeros. See? Now, here's where this is beautiful. In quantum mechanics, remember we talked about how there's particle and wave function in quantum mechanics, because quantum mechanics deals with probability in that respect. All right? What collapses probability into an actual event? Something that's called in science a quantum operator. Conscious input can alter the wave function at the higher realms, collapsing into an actual physical event. Do you know what that is? Belief. That's what it is. The quantum operator is belief. Yeah. This is science, people. This is not spookism. See? Belief is grossly underrated. Belief presumes immediate action and motion. It is not stagnant. Many of us have not yet even begun to believe. The way one of my elders said it, he said, belief is not a thought the mind possesses. Belief is a thought that possesses the mind.
Wow. Okay.
And we have many ways of quote unquote, forgive me for using this word, tricking the mind into that state. Trance states, ecstatic states of mind brought on by music, song, dance, etc. All of this is technology to fast track your mind into that high dimensional state. See?
No, that's why they say that they built the pyramids with sound.
Yes.
Using sound frequencies.
And you could go into places like that, or certain cathedrals, or certain mosques, or certain tabernacles, and just chant or sing or hum certain things and immediately go into a trance state or an ecstatic state.
Well, when they talk about possession, a lot of people talk about possession that happens in voodoo. Or in, they said that they were trying to shoot them during the war, and the bullets wouldn't penetrate them.
Exactly.
Yeah, because they were able to, but that's because they built themselves up through that sound.
Why do you think that these so-called primitive traditions were highly outlawed on pain of death?
Right, because they could, they were dangerous.
And
so when you say, hey,
yep.
they had to ban them because people were able to overcome their,
Now I'm just about done. I got 2 more slides left.
Yeah, 2 more slides. Go ahead.
I just want to say something really quick about that, right? About what we're talking about. There was a European around 1900, right? He was a Rosicrucian. His name was I'm drawing a blank. Hold on. His name hold on.
But while you're looking at that, I want to show this. You talked about 1s and 2s. These are the Odu in E5.
Yes, it's the binary system.
Binary system, and you know what what that stands for? With these numbers?
What's that?
Expansion and contraction.
Just like there you go. Yep.
So it's how things come into being, and also darkness and light.
That describes literally, from the quantum physics perspective, the nature of the nucleus of an atom itself. It winks in and out of existence.
Yeah.
It is in Islam, in the Arabic, what we call the declaration of faith, or shahada, right? We say, Ashhadu la ilaha illallah, la ilaha illallah. That's actually a mathematical formula describing the nature of the winking in and out of existence of the nucleus of an atom. We say, La ilaha, there is no God. Right? Illallah, there is only Allah. It's literally describing the 1 and the 0. 1 0 1 0 1 0. Expand, contract, expand, contract. That's what it's describing.
So that we have very similar things in that. That's interesting.
It's just 2 different ways of describing the same phenomenon.
Wow. And the same thing exists in Taoism.
Yes. Sure does. Sure does. That's why in the old days.
And actually, same thing in Hebrew. Because what it says, and God said, let there be light.
Correct.
And darkness was on the face of the deep.
Correct.
Right? So.
See?
And the deep in our thing is called Olokun.
Olokun. That's right. The deep. The deep.
Of the waters, right?
Mm-hmm. The waters. That's right.
Right. We all got it's like, okay, we're all saying the same thing.
We're all saying the same thing. But now, I bring up this guy, turn of the century, this European Rosicrucian by the name of, his name was Rudolf Steiner. This is why I bring him up. Listen close. Around the turn of the century, in Austria, in Germany, some of the esoteric Masonic organizations brought him in and asked him to create, listen close, they initiated him and brought him into Egyptian Rite Freemasonry for the purpose, listen close, of reintroducing the spiritual science to craft masonry in Austria. In other words, they realized that somebody took the engine out of their car. You hear me? Somebody took the engine out of their car. This is what's happened to religion in the West in general. See? Regardless of faith tradition, Islam, regardless, this is the
I've heard
narrative.
that people will say the 100 names of Allah and see spaceships coming out the sky.
Yeah.
Like we'll see like weird phenomena happening, UFOs flying.
Yes.
All kind of crazy stuff.
Yes. Or like the 72-fold name of God in the Israelite tradition.
So it probably is because you have to say it in Hebrew, though, right? Or can you say it in English?
Why? You know why?
Because of the vibration, right? Of the sound.
There you go.
So that's why. Okay. And same thing with Odu. Same thing when you recite the Odu. It brings about. It's actually, they say it's witchcraft, it's spell work, but it's all it is sonic, using sound.
Sound is audible mathematics. Color is visual mathematics.
To manipulate the situation. You can use sound to manipulate the environment. You could play Halloween music and people start feeling scared.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? You play the right sound, yeah.
Look up Dr. Ibrahim Karim out of Egypt. He quote unquote rediscovered. I have to use the word rediscovered. He calls it biogeometry.
You know, even deeper, do you know that, like, even when do you know that there's actually a whole science to the sound of how a car door sounds when you close it?
Yes.
There's actually a person that's all they do is how that sound is that.
In film work, we call it Foley work, Foley, Foley work. That's a whole department in filmmaking and post-production.
Because that's how they make that film seem more realistic to the viewer, right?
There you go.
And all a film is just basically showing the same thing about reality and characters. So, anyways, we can go. Man, this is great. So, child, we can go round and round with this whole thing.
See what I'm saying? All right, this is my last slide right here. Right in the Arabic, in the prayer in Islam, we say Rabbil Alameen, right? No, I'm sorry. Maliki, that's wrong in the slide. It should say Maliki Yawmuddin, Lord of all the planes of manifest. So we say that in our tradition, right? Oneness is oneness, meaning the deific is the only reality. And anything that's differentiated, like cars, plants, trees, whatever human, are existing in the mind of the deity, not outside of it. So let's take light. That's a great analogy. We shine light. Light is white. But when you shine it through a prism has how many sides? 3. You get 3 primary colors that exist inside that white light, not outside of it. Blue, yellow, red. And then within them, you have 4 other secondary colors. So you got the deity oneness, the deity in its creative fiat perspective, which is 3, and then the deity as it relates to manifest creation, which is 7. God the 1, God the 3, God the 7, right? Inside the body, it's the human mechanism, physical and non-physical combined. Within it, you have what? Body, soul, spirit, right? Differentiated further, you have what? 7 lesser brains along the spinal column of man, which the Hindu system calls the chakras, right? Those 7 creative spirits are the manufacturers of raw matter by which deity or any other thinking thing projects its thoughts into, and it begins to organize. See, the Hebrews call those 7 creative spirits Elohim, right? What do our brothers in the Caribbean call it?
Orisha?
Thank you. See? Same thing.
That's wow. And that and what do they call it in Islam?
Oh, we the same thing. We say the seven angels. Say the same thing.
So that's the Elohim.
Yeah. What are they? They are gods. If we were to speak religiously, they're God's staff as they're God's manufacturing staff as it relates to manifest creation. Yes.
Wow. So basically, I'm glad to bring. It's an interesting thing to have a discussion that shows the similarities for these things.
Yes.
Because a lot of times it's not about similarity; it's about
highlighting differences. When we do that, that's when we fight.
Exactly.
Right.
I want to do a lot more of these type of shows where we start to point out and find similarities in all these practices rather than the debate about the differences, because then we might end up just finding out that, hey, it's different after all. It's just a different same thing, different language. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Same thing, different languages. And maybe based on the area that you're in, you might have a focus that's more focused on specific.
Right. But we can't make our focus the whole thing, and that's what we tend to do a lot of times, don't we?
That's why it's very important to identify factors by the way of principle. Because with principle, you can relate to anybody. This is why I'm saying I am Buddha. Because it only means one to be in. I am Moshiach, because it only means to be anointed. So I'm just using that just as examples to show in principle you can relate in a universal sense.
Thank you, brother.
Verse when we dive into traditions and rituals, that was born through being hibernated within an environmental condition. So adaptation is what brings forth the survival of people.
Yes.
So this is what you have differences in cultural development.
Yes.
But the principle always existed. It just had to be amalgamated within the environmental and cultural expression. That's it. So
brother,
we can build.
Perfectly.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's all I wanted to say.
Bro,
I'm enjoying this.
You said it perfectly, bro. For real, all of us need to hear more of what you just said. We say it this way in the More Science Temple of America: custom alters not the nature of truth. See, in other words, but guess what? It takes work. That takes work for me to, okay, you guys have that tradition. All right, let's look past the tradition and see what the principle is. Oh, wait a minute, we carry that same principle. We just might express it a little different, but it's the same principle. See that? That's dope work right there. Yeah, that's dope work. See, we need to hear more of that. All of us do. All of us do. Even in the More Science, especially in the More Science Temple of America, because you know what happens? Human weakness, we all have it. So it's like especially when you've got generations of feeling powerless, all of a sudden you got something that makes you feel powerful, right? What do we want to do? We want to be half a hot shots and flex on everybody. That's how I was there. You know what I'm saying? I was there, and so, we have to, even with this, we have to mature. We have to grow. And what you just said, brother.
And one more thing, I think the nation of gods on earth matured in that stance because originally they was known as the 5% nation. But as they developed, they understood that other schools of thought also know the truth, hear the truth, and speak the truth. So they went from 5% nation to nation gods and earths because they acknowledge that you're going to have Israelites that's 5%. You're going to have more.
Come on, brother.
You understand what I'm saying? People in the Epha tradition, 5%. So they broaden their understanding, like we're not the only 5%. So what we're going to say is we're the gods and earths, and then other people that have their cultural expression. There's always been a 5% in the midst of every people.
Brother, actual fact. See, because the whole 5%, 10%, 85%, as you already know, a lot of people don't, but is really psychology. In any group, you've got the masses that are just going along to get along. And then you got another group that takes advantage of their ignorance. And then you got the smaller group that says, nah, we're not going to do that. See? Yeah.
You a kung fu connoisseur, and who would be the 5% amongst the Chinese, but the Shaolin Temple. And then you
Right.
had 10% who was the Wu Tang, that they knew the truth, but they was working for the Qing. And then the population, they was following the Qing. And they were
That's
the
right.
invaders of China. I'm just using that as an example because I know
That's a
that
good
you're a kung
example.
fu.
Bro, that's a dope example. Because that's right. That's what happened. That's a dope example right there. Because both the 5 and the 10 knew better, but the 10 said, we're gonna capitalize off the ignorance. We're gonna capitalize on what's popping right now. That's what they did.
We seen that with Priest Pai Mei. Priest Pai Mei was at 10%. He was a Lama priest.
Yeah.
But he knew he heard the truth, but he didn't speak the truth, and he separated himself from the Shaolin Temple.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why the Shaolin was always, targeted, because they would have been considered at that time the 5%.
Right, brother. That's true. see, brother, you old, not only you a New Yorker, you old school. See, a lot of us don't know that.
I love kung fu, man. I do. I never lied. I never lied.
Yes, sir.
Remember when we used to do these things called building?
Yes.
People used to get together and build. They call it a build.
Yeah.
Share knowledge with each other.
Yes.
Do people even still do that anymore? Or do they more debate what they know?
Well,
or are they build separately amongst their small groups?
I would say that this type of thing, like what we're doing now, must happen more. It doesn't happen enough. It doesn't.
Because imagine, like, if we had a bunch of people and we're bringing knowledge from AI perspective, from financial perspective, from okay, we got this over here in Israel, we got this over here in Africa. This is what we're doing, and we all came together and had like panels like this, just talking about subjects.
Right.
I think that we need to bring back building.
Yes.
We need to bring back the what was they used to call it, the cipher. The cipher.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree 100%. Agree 100%. 100%.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? We don't have, like, when the brother said, wait a minute, I live in 2 places. I live here, and I said, I'm going to tell you where my mind went.
We need to talk.
We talk about, in the Moorish Science of America, the Moorish movement, one of our critiques, and, we can be critical of ourselves. A lot of quote unquote Moors are only good for a Moorish conversation. See what I'm saying? Let me tell you what other people do. Let's talk about Italians. He meets a countryman. Oh, you're Italian? I'm Italian. What part of? Oh, I'm Calabrese. What are you? Oh, Sicilian. Next thing they're talking about, let's get this bag. How can we get this money? See how that works? They don't sit there for hours and hours and hours talking about the glory days of old Rome. See? My brother's where? Tanzania? And in it? Man, listen. You already know what's on my mind. See that?
I already know. You're going to get that ticket soon. Come see me.
Man, I'm looking at, bro, I'm looking at, because we're already in the process of looking at purchasing the shipping container. So you're okay. All right.
Absolutely.
See?
Say love.
That's right. That's right. Already looking at that. See what I'm saying? We got somebody on the ground over there. What am I gonna do? Beef and say, he ain't got no fez. He don't say Islam. Yeah, right. See what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Right.
We need more unity. We need to stop debating and start uniting and actually supporting each other in some kind of way. Our community it deserves it at this point.
Yes.
Because as we can see, the government's not going to do it. We need to be getting the hell up out of here. United States, to be quite honest, we need to be get out of here.
There's some interesting things happening, right? We can see it. This is stuff that we talked about 20 years ago, 15 years ago, 30 years ago. Now we're watching it on CNN.
Bro, they clearly don't want us here.
Yeah, like, come on, guys.
They clearly don't want us here no more. So why are we staying?
But here's the other part, sister. their whole way of thinking and acting and living is unsustainable to them now. They can't hold it together.
Yeah.
It's up. And that ain't crazy or radical to say. It's up. My guy said this about 8 years ago, and he was 100% correct. You know what he said? He said the United States is a third world country with a Gucci belt.
And I think even with this Sean Diddy situation with the music industry, how it's gonna like pretty much threatening to take down everybody, you know what I'm saying? Through that whole thing.
Yes.
Which I think was almost like what's that thing when you have put like a little bomb somewhere in the person's head and it explode? What is that thing? It's called something like a little they put that there and like knew it was there sitting the whole time. Right. And then right at the right moment, boom. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And so and now and there's enough information has been collected for it for it to be scattered far and wide, right?
Yes.
And now you have AI fixing to come in. You know, let me destroy all this celebrity aspect because that was the one strong hold we had was the entertainment industry. That was the one industry that we did have some level of,
but now watch
at
this.
least perceived control over, right?
But watch this.
Successful at.
But watch this, sis. Right? Think about the classic definition of terrorism. Terrorism is socio-political influenced killing. And the killing doesn't necessarily have to be physical. We could kill your reputation. All right. Follow me. The purpose of terrorism is to affect the living, not the dead. What's going on with Diddy? We're the targets, people. We're the targets. It's to destroy our morale and belief in each other.
I don't think they heard that because that's exactly what I'm saying. Like they're using Diddy as that same poster child that you seen when the big gorilla would ravage the puny, helpless, white woman, which is symbolic to the black man, ride in the destruction of Western liberal democracy in the image of a white woman. So they got to blame our leaders. They told us that in COINTELPRO, the counterintelligence program. And one of the things that always stuck out with them 5 objectives is the long-term range effects that it will have on us as a people. So if they said to defame your leaders, I've never, ever, since I've been on this planet for 48 years, for 48 years, I've never seen how they're attacking the black image like never before. Now they got a new thing now where now they trying to come at Floyd Mayweather.
Yes.
And it's all on social media right now. It seems as though it's been amongst our people that have, and I want to say this on record, I'm not justifying any wickedness.
Right.
But you can't be the author of wickedness and trying to expose wickedness at the same time. You know what I'm saying? So I'm saying, like, why they targeting all these prestigious, quote unquote, so-called black men? Bill Cosby, Mike Tyson, Tupac, Floyd Mayweather. They come in at Cuba Gooding Jr. The list, I mean, it's so much. And it's sad. It's sad, but it's true. They're using the black woman as a vehicle to bring down the ship, so to say. And I'm not going to put no truth out there, but we see that they're using a particular woman. But why is it that they always have to use our women? But we know the truth and the reasons why they're doing that. But I want you to build on that a little bit, Sharif, Elder Sharif. What do you think about the Diddy situation since we're talking about it? How do you feel about it?
So to be like not oversimplify, but to kind of like give the cliff notes. Well, first and foremost, right? We belong, myself, you, and our sister Genesis, we belong to traditions that espouse not just a different worldview, but a different narrative on morality. Okay, right? You know, and I know, and the sister also knows that at a particular, I don't care who you are, if you get up a certain level in this society in the West, in terms of entertainment, in terms of being able to influence people, right? In some shape, form, or fashion, they want you to kiss the ring, right? Now, we know of two people that survived not kissing the ring. Shout out to Cat Williams. Shout out to Dave Chappelle. But you see what they had to go through. We know some people that didn't survive. Shout out to Michael Jackson. Shout out to Prince. You see what I'm saying? Okay. So why do they do that? We know, because if we were ever in the streets or connect anybody in the streets, you know how it went. Man, I got to have some dirt on you to trust you. Right?
That's a fact.
Our mistake is thinking that we can live. Diddy's mistake was thinking that he was bulletproof like Clive Davis, who introduced him. That's the mistake. See what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Yeah,
yes,
he thought you wasn't going to get touched because Clive Davis can't get touched. You thought, see, people think that Epstein's murder was punishment. It was mercy.
That's a fact.
It was mercy.
That's a fact.
They saved his honor. And they saved each other. You get it?
And he knew by the way of secret oath that sometimes you got to take that cyanide pill to save the whole.
Sometimes you got to take one for the team, bro. Right.
That was he was going out in glory.
Right.
And hey, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Absolutely.
And now you made a point about our sisters. Okay. I see, my perspective is this. Just like what's happening, like we say there's a war on quote unquote black men. I take it a step further. There's a war on the principle of manhood. See that? So it's even bigger. It's a war of narratives. It's a spiritual war. It's not so much as targeted specifically at quote unquote brown bodies. It's targeted at the principles. See, the real spiritual power. That's what it is. Right? So we're being inundated. I can agree with you. We're being inundated with weaponized media. But it's an when you see, for instance, a prevalence of degradation of our sisters, right? And even sisters participating in it, right? When you see it, when you start going after the sisters, that shows that the enemy is desperate. The enemy's desperate, right? They're like, yo, it's not enough that we got this high death rate amongst quote unquote black men. It ain't happening fast enough. Yo, we gotta turn up. We gotta turn up.
Right. We listen. We didn't drop we took trucks and dropped them off at Chicago with full of guns and rifles, and that didn't work enough. That ain't happening fast enough.
Right.
And now we gotta we didn't send STDs in the community. We didn't, because how you gonna have syphilis just pop up all of a sudden, like at such an alarming rate in Houston, Texas?
How about that? Hold on. Now I want to, because I don't want us to get too far, and then my time is a little bit limited. I got some other things I got to do, but real quick, I see you, sis.
Okay.
So, right, to that point, and to kind of tie all this stuff back, we're seeing an upsurge in the demonization of our people's character to the world. This is why.
That's right.
Look at the non-aligned movement. Look at the BRICS alliance. Look at the push against European colonization on the continent of Africa and other non-European nations. It's up. Global Euro-colonialism is up. And the only way the United States can survive is if it does business with other people through us. This is why you're seeing the narrative demonize our people, because they want, you know what they're saying to the rest of the world, man, don't like them niggas. Please
That's
don't
a
do
fact.
That's what it is.
So
And I'm
when you
over
have
there.
but hold on, you got the FBA movement saying we need to what did they say? They call them the tethers, and they're, you know, and then, so now that's creating even more division between that. So, and we're like, this is our country, but it's like, this is a sinking ship. We need to be heading over there. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, you know,
there is that perspective. I'm not going to throw that out, but follow me, right?
No, I'm just saying that he's kind of getting black people to not be cool with other people, like say Africans in Africa. Like the whole thing with the FBA is like, oh, you guys are tethers, you know, and it's creating like a little bit of a friction between.
And see, that's a problem for me. I'm just being honest. That's a problem for me. I'm going to tell you why it's a problem. Let's look at Americanism. Real Americanism. Real Americanism. Ain't nothing racist about real Americanism. You understand? Nothing racist about real Americanism. Let me show you. You've got, here we go. Let's take Japanese Americans. They're American citizens of Japanese descent. So one of the prerequisites, social prerequisites of Americanism is that you must have an old world connection. Now, how does that old world connection work? Remember what happened during World War II when the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor? What happened to Japanese Americans? They got interned in camps. Why?
Enemy.
Because it's presumed this is just a part of American social fabric, real American social fabric. You have an old world connection. Okay. And that old world connection works in your favor as an American citizen. First and foremost, it is your main contribution to American society, number one. Number two, because of that, it is the way you are socially recognized by any other American citizen, number two. Without that connection, you are now seeing, our people in particular are seen what? As descendants of products of American commerce, not as contributors to the American experience. Make sense? This is one of the powerful things behind Hebrew Israelite heritage, Moorish American heritage, West African heritage. You have an old world connection. And that old world connection works in modern time. See? That means, come on, how many businessmen, European businessmen, use their old world connection in America to this day? They'd be like, yeah, the market's doing this and that. So what? I'm trading with so-and-so and getting this money. See my point? Why are we not doing the same thing? This is what Garvey was real about. He wasn't about all of us go back to Africa. He was about our brothers in Africa with the resources and our brothers over here with the intelligence. Do this. See?
That's what Prince Asiel said. That's a marriage made in matrimony. They got the resources. We got the intellect. And I see it over here in Africa. But I do got to say this in defense of the FBA. Even though I'm in Africa, I am FBA.
No doubt.
Okay?
No. I get it. Yes.
What I'm saying, right. What I'm saying, we're indigenous to the whole planet. That's number one.
Straight like
that. But at the same time, we know that the civil rights movement, the Black Power movement, all that was built on the backs of our people.
Yes.
And there is a disdain, because I'm traveling, of how the ethnic groups see foundational quote-unquote Black Americans. Yes. You see I'm saying quote-unquote Black, because we know the science of death, but we're not.
I agree with you 100%. I agree with you 100%.
You see what I'm saying? There is a lot of disrespect.
Yes.
From a lot of these ethnic groups coming over and reaping the benefit and not giving the due respect. So all that is on that soil in the United States.
Yes.
And they act tag team and side with those who helped to colonize Africa
Yes.
and who helped to destroy the sovereign nobility of our people in the Americas.
I agree.
So we do have a problem when it comes to, instead of them saying, you know what, y'all forced that civil rights. We got civil rights because of foundational Black Americans. What we gonna do is we gonna side with y'all brothers and sisters.
Right.
But they don't do that.
You know,
They come
brother,
to the United States side with the enemy.
I can
That's
agree with that. I can agree with that. And in that respect, see, where I am with the FBA is this. First of all, what you just said, I agree with. I see it firsthand. I sit on the board of one of the largest interfaith organizations in upstate New York, and their longest money comes from refugee resettlement. So I see it firsthand. I see brothers from Somalia say, "Oh, I don't like Black people." I see it. And I have to explain to these other Europeans why they say that. See, because they don't really understand it. So I have to explain to them why. Now, that being said, right?
Why? You said Somalians don't like Black people? Why don't they like? Why?
Okay, you ready for this one? This is Genesis. This is going to knock your head wrap off. Listen to this.
My head wrap.
Listen to this. Remember we talked about the old Euro-colonial narrative. The purpose of the Euro-colonial narrative is to reinforce the false notion that Europeans, pale Europeans, were not only superior, but always have been superior. So it has to eradicate or eliminate any history that would indicate otherwise. Am I right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So there was a sociologist by the name of Charles Seligman. Charles Seligman is the one that came up with what's called the Hamitic hypothesis. In other words, they said, okay, these Negroes are incapable of any kind of real civilization. They're savages. So how are you going to explain the Great Walls in Zimbabwe? How are you going to explain Timbuktu? How are you going to explain, how are you going to explain ancient Egypt, Nubia? How are you going to explain all that? Know what their explanation was? Those were dark-skinned Europeans. They call them Hamites.
That's right.
Those were pastoral Europeans. They weren't Negroes. And the only real Negro was the sub-Saharan African. Now, you hear what I just said? Do you know that the basis of race classification in America is based on that foolishness? So anything north of Sahara in Africa is called white? Ask any of your friends that immigrated.
That's why if you look on Kamala Harris's birth certificate, her mother is identifying herself as Caucasian, because when the British came into the Indos during the imperial time, those of the caste system, the Aryan, they was defining as Caucasian, even though we know the original Indians were Black. You know what I'm saying? But that form of racism, you could see that even trickled in the United States of America. And you're correct. Those that were sub-Saharan, they wanted us to believe that we had no ties to the East. So they had to label us as such through the Hamitic hypothesis. That's why when you told me about Brother Sharif linking Epha to Islam in the Eastern tradition, he's correct. And that's what I said. It originally didn't come from modern day Nigeria.
Right.
We were pushed to them areas from the East. You see what I'm saying? And that's why they labeled us as the cursed seed of Canaan or the Hamitic hypothesis. You know what I'm saying? What you got right there?
Brother, what you just said is verified by Dr. Tariq Berry in this book.
Yeah, that's an excellent book, The Unknown Arabs. Excellent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but real quick, I want to say to the sister and to the audience, ask any Sudanese immigrant, ask any Egyptian immigrant, ask any Libyan immigrant, ask them, ask any Somalian immigrant, when you came through INS, how were you classified? They will tell you white. I don't care if they're super dark. Word is bond.
That's a fact.
Word is bond.
Yeah.
Test me and see if I'm wrong.
The whole North Africa is known as white.
Even the dark skinned Somalians?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
They're considered white.
Yes.
Sis, I'm about to send you a slide from an old presentation I did that I want you to just put up. Hold on, let me find this slide real quick. You're going to bug out.
I didn't know that. So what
It's
about
exactly
Ethiopians?
fact.
Are they considered white too?
Say it again.
Ethiopians?
Yes.
Yeah.
Hold on, sis. I'm going to show it to you in black and white. Hold on. I'm going to show it to
That's
you in
why
black
they
and white.
think that they're better than everybody because they're white.
I'm going to show it to you in black and white, sis.
Wow.
It's really a geopolitical term, and the more it's been exposed years ago.
I was wondering why on Tariq Nasheed, everybody, all the Sudanese are the main ones jumping and fighting with him. It's because all of them think that they're considered in their mind that they're white, so they on the white people. Okay, well, that's great.
You just see recently what they did to Kevin Hart when Kevin Hart said that the Egyptians, the original Commission people, were black, and they postponed. They canceled all his stand-up comedy in Egypt, and up there to the Egyptians.
That's fact. Listen. What I'm telling you, what we're talking about is literally the United States federal government's Office of Management and Budget. That is where you get race classification for statistics in this country. It's called Federal Directive 15. I'm going to find this picture and I'm going to send it to you from this slide. Man, listen. When you hear, first of all, when you hear the definitions, you're going to get pissed off. You're going to get mad because you're going to realize when you read these definitions that somebody is really playing with your intelligence. You hear me?
So that means that they get different, like even when getting a job or anything like that, they're putting on their application white.
Why you thinking they letting all these immigrants in? Because if you're letting these immigrants in and you talking about rocking the vote, we got to look at this thing geopolitically. You talking about rocking the vote, and if the people or the masses is identifying with a geopolitical term as white, you understand what I'm saying? Which side they look towards?
So we must have been about to outpopulation them. And so they had to bring in a bunch of Caucasians to even out the population.
Sister, do you know that in 1830, listen close, 1830, in the 1830s, Irish, German, and Italians were not considered white. They became white later.
Because they wanted America to remain a white country.
But here's the question: how they become white?
Right. Reality is America was really a black country. We are the real white people. But that's a different stuff. You know what, Sharif? I'm not.
No, I'm saying I don't mean like black and white. I'm mean like Caucasian.
No, I'm serious when I say that. I'm saying that Europeans are the original black people, and that we are the original white people. I'm not talking skin color. I'm talking a staff.
And you hear what the brother just said? The mere fact, see, we're taught, miseducated here. We're taught that race is genetic and it's based on skin tone. But the mere fact that Federal Directive 15 can say, hold on.
You know this to me?
I'm trying to find the slide right now. But the mere fact that Federal Directive 15 can say, when I show you these definitions, you're going to be like, you can't be serious. You're going to be like, you are bugging out. Right?
And I just want to say this while you real fast. For the listener audience, I don't want y'all to think I'm bugging when I say that the so-called white people are black and we are white. I'm talking about a state of consciousness. When we talk about white, we talk about us being enlightened, the enlightened ones. Those are the black or opposite to the enlightenment. It went from a conscious state of thinking to now they dealing with racial overtones. Originally, it didn't have any.
Right. That's deep. Okay, we hear what you just said? This is real. This is real. Federal, man, I'm trying to find this slide. I'm gonna have to pull it off my laptop and send it to you, sis. But listen, matter of fact, I'm gonna do that right now. But listen, The mere fact, and it's a fact, that according to the the United States Immigration and Naturalization Service, INS, and according to Federal Directive 15 for the Office of Management and Budget, right? Sudanese, Ethiopians, Somalians, Egyptians, etc., are considered white. That lets you know right off top it ain't got nothing to do with skin color. Nothing.
And I think Dominicans are considered white too, right?
They became that. Well, all depends. It all depends. It all depends on a couple things. They're like when you look at Federal Directive 15, it'll say black non-Hispanic or black.
Right. So they had to break Hispanic down into different categories of white.
Wonder why. Now that takes us back to the Iberian Peninsula and the origin of American.
I wonder why. So they're breaking. They're breaking that down for tax purposes.
No, not just that. It's bigger than tax purposes. Trust me, it's bigger than tax purposes.
Because I know they're tracking all that somewhere.
Of course, but it's bigger than tax purposes. It's statistics. Now think about how many billions and billions of dollars are based on certain statistics
and programs in certain areas.
Pull up that slide I just sent you on Facebook.
Okay.
Facebook Messenger.
So that's exactly what Dr. Claude Anderson was talking about. That they can allocate more resources to a certain group based on a race if they have more of that race in that area.
But the only thing with our brother Dr. Claude Anderson is that he wasn't working with this information as regarding race. He was accepting the norm.
That's a fact.
You say he wasn't working in his information?
He wasn't working with what we're talking about with regard to the lie about race. He was accepting the norm. Do you understand what I'm saying?
He was accepting the norm.
In other words, he was working with what the standard is today, the standard understanding of race is today.
Oh, okay.
You get it? All right.
Yeah.
You see the slide?
Yeah. Can you see it?
Can you make it bigger?
Yeah. You can, I don't know if I can zoom in. Let me try to zoom in.
It says the color code system of race invented by Europeans
to facilitate white supremacy. Now, sis, this is the Office of Management and Budget's Federal Directive 15, Race and Ethnic Standards for Federal Statistics and Administrative Reporting. Look to the far right. Look at the definitions for black and white. Tell me what's wrong with the definition for black, sis.
Because it's saying all of Africa.
Nah,
but then this
that's
is
not
saying
what's wrong
North.
with it. That's not what's wrong with it. Don't even go to the definition on white.
There is no such thing as a black racial group.
We learned in grade school you can't use the word you're defining in the definition.
Right.
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 That's a non-definition. Now look at the definition of white.
Person having origins in any of the black racial groups of Africa?
The hell are they even saying?
What are you talking about?
Correct. Now look at the definition for white.
Having origins in any of the original peoples of Europe. That's what it actually said that?
Yes.
Was this taken from their slide?
Just pull it up yourself. You can look up OMB Federal Directive 15 right now and read it yourself. That's what it says.
Who wrote this? Like the sentence doesn't even make sense.
The government wrote it.
Correct.
Having origins in any of the original people of Europe, North America, or the Middle East.
No, North Africa.
North Africa. What about Asia? Are they considered white too?
Ain't this crazy?
And if you peep, notice how they use the term black. You know they really talking about a status.
Right.
Because when you look at white, it'll say original peoples.
Right.
Of Europe, Africa, or the Middle East, which we know is also Northeastern Africa.
It's Africa.
But
exactly.
When it just says
having origins
of the black racial groups. So what they clearly saying, that's what the brother was saying, the Sudanese, your Somalis, your Ethiopians, your Egyptians, your Eritreans, your Libyans. They looking at all of them as white. Why? Because when you start to study the history of these people, this is where the greatest civilizations is coming out of. It's coming out of the Middle East and North Africa and them areas. Anything across the Red Sea going deeper south, they looking at them as savages.
Right.
That's the sub-Saharan Africans are what you would be considered subhuman.
Right.
They in the Hermetic hypothesis. So he's absolutely correct. So there's Kamala Diva Harris, who I keep saying is Irish and East Indian, right? She's not a foundational Black American. He has the objective why they opened up them borders. And I think what Elder Sharif is showing right here is the key as to why they opening up them borders. Because if you got more of these people classified as such, then the more monetary movements are involved.
Right. Yo, sis, I gotta run, but real quick, I want you to pull up this video I just sent you from YouTube.
Okay.
Pull it up and play it for the audience, man. You don't gotta play all of it, but just the first few things he's saying. Our good brother out of Philadelphia, Mustafa Hefni. Just listen to what he's saying. Let him tell it himself. Oh, back it up, and turn up the volume. Oh, still can't hear. We can't. Yep, nobody can hear anything.
The devil is a liar.
They can't hear it.
Shibot, you gotta go in and out. You might have to drop it and then bring it back in. You gotta add the order. You gotta add the order. That's what's going on.
Oh, what it stopped playing?
No, you couldn't hear it. No audio.
Let me try it again. That's interesting.
Yep. No audio.
Let's see.
It's a global conspiracy against Elder Sharif.
Right. They're trying to stop us.
Yeah.
Can you hear it now?
Nope.
Dang, what? What's going on?
But you got it on pause. Unpause it. See what happens.
Okay, hold on.
Still can't hear.
Is it playing?
It's playing, but no audio.
That's crazy.
Let's see if I can do it from here. Just play the audio. I'm gonna play the audio.
Okay.
Let me do it from here. Let me pull it up. Mr. Mustafa Hefni. All right.
And I think even though he was in Philly, I think he's from Egypt.
Yeah, he's from Egypt. He is. Okay, Here we go. I'm going to play the audio, and I'm going to put it up to the phone so you guys can hear.
Okay.
I'm a Black Egyptian. My father is much darker than I am. My mother is lighter than I am. In Egypt, people are identified by the religion first, not the race. So in Egypt, if you are Christian, you are a minority person. But if you're Black, you're not a minority person. You are a part of the mainstream society. And I came from this background. And in Egypt, you identify as Arab and as Muslim. And in this country, when I first came, I identified myself as Arab American and Muslim first. And gradually, I became to identify myself as Black. I came to the U.S. in 1978, and I became U.S. citizen in 1985. When I became a U.S. resident, I was told by the Immigration and Naturalization that I am white. And I told them that I'm Black, and they said, no, in this country, you are white. All Arabs in this country, all Arab immigrants are white. I didn't pay much attention in the beginning to this because in the Arab world, we identify with our ethnicity first as Arabs and then with the race second as Black or white or whatever. But in this country, you identify with your racial group first and then with your ethnicity second. Gradually, I became black first and Arab second. And I rejected my white classification publicly for the first time in 1987, in February, as a panelist in a function sponsored by the Association of the Study of Black Life and History in Detroit. I said that I belong to two minority groups. I am Arab American and Black American, and I'm racially Black and ethnically Egyptian. I was harassed by my employer right after that. I work for a white school district. The superintendent is white. All the associate superintendents are white, even though that we provide services to 30% Black population. But the organization is white and the approach is very white. The attitude towards me changed completely after I went out publicly and rejected my white classification. One coworker came to me and told me, a white coworker came to me and told me right after the function that he met with the superintendent, and if I don't keep my mouth shut, my educational career is over. He said, you have to do with these people, you have a hit.
You hear that?
That's crazy. So they forced, like, no, don't tell nobody that.
Ain't that crazy?
And here he up there with an afro and everything. Come on now.
But now here's the other part. Remember we said about the unknown Arabs?
Yeah.
He's Arab.
Wow. Okay.
See?
So Arabs are just like Latinos.
And Arab is a language group. It's not a race.
The original Ishmaelite people or the Bedouins, you can go right now to Jerusalem,
Correct.
to an area known as Prison Gate, and you will see them darker than me and you. As a matter of fact, I don't know if you look, DJ Genesis, we will be interviewing the actual sheik from over there next Thursday. I don't know if you looked in your inbox and you see the picture and everything. And the brother that we're going to be interviewing, he's a direct understudy of Sheikh Ahmed that's over there. And his family was the ones that actually helped the Rothschilds back in 1897 to scalp out the land of Israel, because prior they knew nothing of that land because they're not indigenous to the land. So that's going to be an excellent interview. I think Elder Sharif will definitely like that interview. That's coming up as well.
Absolutely.
Everybody say hello to Osset, please. Say hi, Osset.
Hi,
hello.
Osset. How are you? Well, listen,
we're about to end this show. Osset,
yeah, I gotta run.
Man, this is 3 hours. Did you realize we went that long?
Man,
we're having a great conversation.
Yes.
It lasts. It tends to last. So I wanted to thank everybody for coming out.
Yes.
We gotta do a part 2, definitely.
For sure.
You got a whole nother slide you didn't get to because we started talking first. We're gonna start with the slide next time. But we should put together something called a cipher and get everybody to come
real
and
talk.
build like this. You know how we just bouncing off each other? I'm just surprised at everything. It would be great to have this type of stuff.
What we could do that nobody has, I never seen nobody do this. We all three of us can create, or whoever else involved, we can create one centralized PowerPoint presentation, and we be feeding off the same PowerPoint. And when your slides come up, then you build off your slide. Then the next is a woman, and it just keeps going around in the cipher.
Absolutely.
Yeah, there we go.
Absolutely.
That sounds pretty cool. I knew something was awesome that was going to come out of this.
Yes. This is powerful. I appreciate you inviting me.
And we all got different sized hats. Like I got my hat on, you got your hat. And it's getting like taller and taller as it gets. You should have been on. It should have been like this. His hat is bigger than that, and mine's the smallest.
Look like your joint turning into a fast. What's going on? Look like you're
hey, you got a fast on too.
I'm a tribal minister. I can marry y'all.
Oh Lord, no, you got a fez on too.
Where the elder go?
No, he had to go.
Okay.
No, you already know what the thing is. Stop. I said, what are you doing, child? Listen.
Oh man. All right. It was definitely an honor and a privilege to have Elder Sharif come on alchemizing energy from darkness into light. Yo, DJ Genesis, take us out of here.
Oh Lord, have mercy.
Ah,
Alchemize your energy. Darling, let your spirit be free. Don't give up. Keep on pushing through. Now is the time. It's all up to you. Alchemize your energy. My friend, let your spirit be free. Don't give up. Keep on pushing through. Now is the time. It's all up to you. No matter the storm, but over tragedy. No matter the storm, but over tragedy. No matter the storm, we will always take flight. Keep on pushing through the darkness of night. There's no limit, let's reach for the sky. Shine so bright from darkness to light.